Hey everybody, welcome to Canary Cry Radio, episode number 176, Technology of the Fallen with Hope and Tivon, Seed War, Transhumanism, WBAN, AI, C40 Killbox Cities. My name is Gans. Just a real quick intro here at the top. This is a 3.5 hour conversation with Hope and Tivon. They were very prepared and they gave a fantastic presentation about where we're at this stage in the world and the biblical foundation for it. If you are new to this type of information, welcome. We appreciate your time and attention. I personally think that this is the most important issue for all believers around the world as time goes on. And it sounded crazy 10 years ago when I was screaming into a mic about it, but nowadays it seems like more and more people are up to speed. And so if you are new to the show and you had a friend or family member, maybe the crazy uncle, shared this link with you and you are here listening in, thank you for clicking on that link. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you get something out of it. And don't be too hard on your family or friend or whoever that sent you this link, because we're not too crazy over here, all right? People might think we're crazy, but we're not. And in my personal opinion, where we're at in the world and society today, it would be a disservice to your fellow brothers and sisters in Christ out there to not share this information with them, to not raise the awareness about the biblical foundations behind what's happening, both historically and eschatologically, which basically means end times stuff. So I know these topics seem weird and uncomfortable, but that's why we're here. That's why we've been screaming into a mic about it for 10 years and why we are still yelling into microphones about it. And the topic has only become more mainstream over the last decade or so. We live in some weird times, and so it makes sense that a couple of weirdos like myself and Basil are here to talk about these things with the folks that are doing the research and sharing it with you all to raise the awareness of this topic and the context of biblical eschatology and biblical history and mythology and all the things, even theology, as part of the discussion as to why things are unfolding the way they are and how it's no surprise to anybody who's been looking at this stuff for a long time. So just wanted to mention here that we operate on value for value as our economic model, which means we don't have advertising, we don't do affiliate codes, which, by the way, we were offered to be an affiliate with Hope and Tivon, but we politely declined because that is not part of our economic model. It would make sense, and it's pretty normal for people to connect and have affiliate codes for each other. And so, you know, if you sell a product on your platform, that's somebody else's product, you get a little cut and things of that nature. We don't want to take part in that, not because we don't want Hope and Tivon to do well, but simply because here at Canary Cry Radio and News Talk, we operate on value for value, which means all content free. And if you get anything out of it, you can provide value back in the form of time, talent, treasure. You can go to canarycry.support to learn all about that. You can also go to canarycry.tube to learn about how you can help us be more sovereign in terms of a media platform as we transition from being online to on-chain. But just as Noah was preparing the ark for the flood, we are somewhat preparing in a sort of virtual or digital sense in terms of our content production to withstand this enormous change that is upon us when it comes to the infrastructure of the internet and everything else. So I won't take any more of your time. Let's just get right into it. Episode 176 of Canary Cry Radio, Technology of the Fallen with Hope and Tivon. Let's go.
Hey everybody, you are listening to Canary Cry Radio, and razzle dazzle, I'm your best buddy Basil.
And this is Gans. Welcome to episode number 176.
176, truly an auspicious number. The number before 177.
Before?
That's all I have. That's all the commentary I have about 176.
Interesting.
But hey, if you know, you know.
Great. I love your shtick. 176 shtick. All right. Well, you know, we're all living through this rapid ascension toward a technological singularity. And our thesis around here for over a decade in the Canarium has been that such developments are biblical in the eschatological sense, and this increase in knowledge, as in Daniel 12:4, that gave access to a medium that helps us accomplish anything we can imagine, as in Genesis 11:6, is a spiritual phenomenon with the only historical comparisons being ancient mythologies filled with powerful entities from other realms, enhanced god kings, strange creatures, and supernatural artifacts. What the Bible tells us as part of the undergirding narrative that begins in Genesis and is resolved in Revelation is that a corruption to his design in everything from within creation, including and perhaps most importantly, the flesh, are what ultimately initiates kinetic judgment from God. And our guests today, our guests, plural, we'll start off with Hope. She's the co-founder and lead project manager to Fix the World Project. She is an MBA and an entrepreneur with 10 plus years experience working in small businesses, corporate and government finance. She left the corporate world in 2012, and in 2014, her family designed an alternative energy generator prototype called the QEG. She traveled around the world building QEGs and growing her online business, and even met her husband, Tivon, who's with us today as well. They're both American expats that live and work together in Morocco, and they are currently working on making EMF products, EMF protection products, I'm sorry. So welcome, Hope, and Tivon. Thank you for being here.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for having us on.
So exciting to be here with you guys. Thank you so much for the work that you've done. You've played a huge role in me coming back to Jesus, and I just want to make sure that you guys all know that. Thank you for the work that you've done in the past.
Wow, that's very special. Thank you so much. There was surely Age of Deceit documentary series had something to do with that. I have to assume, because it is the most important thing that I can do is remind myself that Gonz's masterpieces will forever shadow any accomplishments that I could possibly imagine.
I don't know that
I
that's
am
true.
lucky. I'm lucky to have him as a partner. Tell me I'm wrong. Was it Age of Deceit?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And by the way, I have this chronic disease that makes it sound like everything that I say is ironic. True listeners know I am absolutely sincere about that. And I want to say that if it was not for Age of Deceit, I don't know if I would be the same person. Maybe for different reasons, but different and better all the same. So, Gonz, I have a quick question for you.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's been asking me this, and I think now's the time, now's the moment that is very important to we get it out to the world, which is, when is Age of Deceit 4 coming out?
It's supposed to be coming out this month in April of 2024. That's been the goal.
Right.
Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
now back to you, Hope and Tivon.
Mm-hmm.
My goodness, I had no idea that you guys were so technologically experienced. What in the world? How did I miss this in the bio? I don't understand. Well, Fix the World Project. What is this? Oh, wait, that's a separate thing. What is this technological advancements that you've brought humanity into?
The QEG.
Well, I would like to because I think I want to make sure that my husband gets a chance to tell you about his background, because I think that might have been left out of the bio for some reason, but because he's the engineer, so that's why he's here. I'm the business person, but he's the engineering brain. My family was working on the engineering project, and that's how we met. But it's his background that has really brought all of this technology forward and allowed us to understand. So just tell a little bit about your background.
I was going to say, you look like a very smart guy. You're good looking. You're smart. You seem like the type of guy who would create something that would change the world, possibly even be, I don't know, sort of coveted by the technological technocrat masters of our day. So yes, please tell me what's going on in that beautiful brain of yours.
Basil. Well, look, we stand on the shoulders of giants. I'm just a technician from a technical background. Mm-hmm. I spent some time in the IT sector and hardware, software development, and more from a customer service background, working for companies from that worked in Wall Street, IT, fintech type stuff, to for like IT education for schools, for all kinds of schools. And before then, I was coming from a cryptologic technician background out of U.S. Navy. But
I just love the sound of that. Just cryptologic tech whatever something background from the Navy. I mean, you're my kind of guy, man. I love it.
So I'm used to just fixing things. Could be a broken cable, a circuit board, or some software code, things like that. But I've always had an interest in off-grid living, wanting to be away from dealing with being tethered, either electrically or what have you, and have everyone having their own power supplies and things like that. So I've always kind of followed alternative energy type stuff going on the forums over the years. And the things I thought I knew back then, I realized I look back now and there's so much I didn't know. And again, like, we stand on the shoulders of giants. There've been so many people in this area that it's almost more of it's starting to get into the professional realm now, as far as what are people working on their garages, and everyone going open source with this instead of trying to get the patents, or I want to get this thing protected before I release it to the public, only to find themselves in trouble.
It's a
Save the world. Saving the world. Bro, I don't know how much of this podcast or my work that you've come in contact with, I don't even want to know, because I don't know if you knew this or not, but I recently, past couple of years, moved full on off grid. Like,
awesome.
No wires, no pipes, no nothing. I knew absolutely nothing about what it would entail. And through the I don't know, brutal trials, the harsh master of necessity, I was made my way through installing a full solar system and making the whole thing happen, which, by the grace of God, I did not zap myself into oblivion. I did zap myself. I did zap myself a couple times, but not into oblivion. So you are my kind of guy, and I have a feeling we're going to have a very long and fruitful relationship. You're going to get me whatever sort of secret free energy device that I can hook into my system here and keep these batteries charged for more than a couple days. And I appreciate that, and I thank God for our meeting. Now,
that's kind of my question, though. It is traditionally in this space, when you talk about this type of endeavor to figure out these technologies that aren't necessarily commercial and can really get people more independent with all of the things that society has to offer. It's been mysterious murders. It's been, it's been really bad stuff. How, obviously you guys are expats. What's been the process in terms of that? Have you been hunted in a way, or is this something that you guys have avoided?
It's that verse about how God takes what was intended for a curse and turns it into a blessing. So we have both been targeted as a result of being in the energy industry. So we're both technically targeted individuals. My husband has gone through the electronic targeting, and I've gone through the psychological operations, JTRIG, GCHQ, government trolling targeting. So we've had both vectors of fifth generation warfare have been done to us. And this, started back in 2014, I think. So we've been through it for years. And we went through these experiences, God let us go through the targeting, and it was really bad for years. It was really bad.
Originally, it was separate.
Yeah. So, and we put our testimonies about what we've been through, because that's how we overcome, is by the word of our testimony, right? So we put our testimonies out there because God let us go through that so that we would have the knowledge about the technology that they're now using on the rest of the human race. So we're coming from experience. And the products that we make, we started making them for ourselves because we needed help. We needed something to stop the electronic microwave harassment that we were going through. So it's really intense, and it's because of the free energy device, and the energy industry is brutal. It's satanic at its core, that's for sure. And I was actually chased down by a satanic cult that targeted me for 4 years as a result of being, part of the Free Energy Project. So yeah, that's our experience, but I'm thankful for it. I'm thankful for it.
Yeah.
By surviving that kind of attack, what ended up happening is we figured that if this is happening to us, then this is merely part of a plan that's going to roll out in the future.
Yeah.
Right.
And at the time, 9 years ago, we really weren't sure where we're going to end up at some points, right? But now that we see what's happening now, and we wrote the book in 2017, and we believe that was divinely inspired because, again, we were trying to bring out our testimony and put it into a body of work that people can reference. And it was our way of trying to find, is there anything solid as far as papers that people wrote, scientists wrote about being able to target people remotely with regard to cyberbullying, COINTELPRO. And that put us on the path to basically not only champion EMF protection type stuff, but also expound on what happened since the book with the recent 4 years that we've all been through and saying, oh, this is indeed what's going on. But at the time, we were simply trying to project where things might be going based on what happened to us.
Yeah, my gosh. Well, I do just want to put it on record right now for the audience, including any intelligence agents or corporate espionage actors. I have no interest in bringing free energy to the world. It's for personal use only. I don't need to tell anybody. I just need something for myself, and I'm not going to step on any toes, okay? I'm not trying to make the world a better place, not trying to make a bunch of money. I just want to keep my lights on. So just so it's on the record.
Sorry that you stepped on that landmine, Gons. I
hate to break it to you, Basil, but that's not going to work because they don't want you to just have it for yourself.
I'm a nice guy. I'm a nice guy. They understand. They're he's a funny guy. We won't mess with him.
What might be interesting, what you might want to know is that if you look into what's happened over the last, I'd say maybe going back 6-7 years and older in the past, it's when you wanted to try to patent it for yourself, and you're looking to secure with licenses and copyrights.
It's almost like the financial stuff. Economically, creating an advantage is not allowed. You can use it on your own. But
that's when you really do invite that whole nexus of stuff. But if it's people who look at it like Arduino or any other disruptive open source type hardware, that stuff rolled out just fine. And in fact, what we're about to get into, the way this technology is rolling out is using open source platform because it's decentralized, because everyone is real time developing experiments and stuff on their own, like the Atoms motor,
like GitHub, right?
Like the Atoms motor, the kind of thing that will recharge batteries in your solar bank. These people are working on this real time right now. They're not being suppressed. It's just what's happening is if you do it that way, everyone has an opportunity to work on it. But they have to be willing to work on it. And I think that goes into why there's a motivation for people not to work, not to innovate, not to do things for themselves. So my hat's off to you, Basil, for coming up with your solar solution. Yeah. Because it's very expensive too. It's not easy.
And we know the work that you have to put into that.
Well, thank you. For once, I feel seen on this show and understood. My goodness.
I always pictured the intelligence agencies pulling up our show and then taking a one look at Basil and saying, "Oh, we're good. We got him.
He's fine. He's not a threat.
He's not going to hurt anybody.
Not a threat. I just want to make sure.
Say Jesus loves you.
Jesus loves you.
I love you.
Amen.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get into it here. You guys perhaps showed up as one of the most prepared people on this show in the universe, and I appreciate that very much, and I want to make sure that we can hit everything that we're trying to hit before our time is up. So how would you like to get rolling? How should we build momentum so you guys can start teaching us all something that, of course, is totally fine and open source and not a threat to anybody?
Well, we'll go through the slides, and Tivon and I will take turns explaining everything using the slides as a guide. And at any point, if you want to stop and comment or ask questions, I'm sure you're going to ask questions that we might already have a slide for that's coming up. So, just let's engage in this conversation. And I'm really glad that we can have the opportunity to present this, especially to your audience, especially to Christians, because a lot of Christians are just not paying attention to what's going on with this particular topic. So we really want to make sure that people are informed and that, God's people have the knowledge about what's being done to them. So we put this, it's a couple hours, I think, this presentation. It's a lot of slides. It's a ton of information, but, we've put a lot of work into this research. And one thing I do want to say before we start is that every single thing that we say, except for if it's like an opinion or a commentary, is backed by scientific documentation. We've got links all over our website. We go on, the science and the industry information. That's where our information is coming from. It's not based on conjecture or just opinions or anything kind of wacky or crazy. We stay in the scientific field, and we're trying to basically communicate the technology to people in a language that everybody can understand so that they know what's going on.
Okay,
great.
And this will be interesting. Of course, this will come up, and I will say, especially with Christians, and to be totally transparent, I do not know anything about this this presentation. I am barely aware of what we are here to talk about, but I know that this kind of topic, EMF stuff, I don't know, free or
perpetual energy type of stuff.
Just unorthodox energy stuff and this kind of thing can really trigger some wariness in Christians specifically because of its overlap with kind of potential new agey ideas,
hyper-sensational,
that kind of stuff. So I would say everybody listening, just be prepared, and let's together, listener, you and I, we're both in this together. We have no idea what's about to happen, and we're going to keep our minds open and keep our hearts gracious, and see what the Lord has planned for us today. So with that, let's go ahead and get started.
Okay, so
Excellent.
We're calling this Technology of the Fallen. It's about the seed war, transhumanism, the wireless body area network, artificial intelligence, and C40 Killbox cities.
That's great. It sounds like a episode name of this show. So far.
Yeah, it's about 50 slides, I'd say. So our summary.
Okay, so we have the seed war and miscegenation.
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 Miscegenation
Wow.
of the species. You'll see what that means in a second.
We have the
Big
wireless
words, folks.
We have the wireless body area network and the evil web to ensnare humanity, emerging technology and transhumanism, and like you mentioned before, C40 Killbox control cities. Then what is called the system upgrade. And then we have the supernatural protection in times of physical and spiritual war. So in an attempt to explain what's happening to the human race, in the last few years, we started at the beginning and explained the seed war between good and evil and how humanity has come to full circle in the end times, ushering in transhumanism right before our eyes. Humans are being biohacked through the wireless body area network. You're going to hear more of this in the future, which is an AI-driven technology that has been covertly erected around our modern society over the past several decades. It uses our living human bodies to operate. Now, the system was recently upgraded through COVID and is moving full steam ahead to implement the UN Age of Global Enlightenment, which is in reality technocratic totalitarianism. Now, in this presentation, we go deep into the industry that is bringing you transhumanism to define the terms, while we show you a high-level view of their plans. And we also go into attempt to show the deepest things of God, because in the end, God is coming back and
for his creation.
For his creation. God wins.
Amen.
Amen.
And just a brief introduction about why we do what we do. So we are Christians, engineers, and scientists. We feel it's our call to help inform people about the technology being used against God's creation. We wrote a book called Forbidden Tech. That's the complete guide to energy, social, and biological technologies that they did not want you to know about. We wrote that in 2017. You can check that out on our website, forbiddentech.website. One of our major businesses is making our handmade EMF protection products. We're going to talk a lot about that towards the end of this presentation, about our products and how they work and everything and all the science behind them. But just know for now, don't miss that part. That'll be towards the end. So we make them in our factory here in Morocco. We've been doing it for 7 years, and we've had over 20,000 customers. So our products really are popular, and they've helped a lot of people, and we just feel so blessed to be able to do that. And in addition to that, we also run an online engineering academy for the development or co-development of researching and building DIY off-grid energy devices, and that's at cleanenergyacademy.com. Okay. So a little bit about that.
Right. Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna
check that out.
Yeah, we're gonna dig right into the seed war. So this might be a little repetitive for you and your audience, I'm not sure, but I wanted to make sure that we really covered this story from the very beginning.
Okay, so as it goes back to the beginning in the Garden of Eden, when the serpent told Adam and Eve, "For God doth know that in the day ye eat thereof, that your eyes shall be opened, and ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil." Now, when God found that they had eaten of the fruit, he said to the serpent, "I will put enmity," extreme hatred, "between you and the woman, and between your seed, Satan, and her seed, Jesus. He will crush your head, and you will strike his heel." Now, we're made in God's image, and God has written his name in every strand of our human DNA. And there have been some scientists, and especially Dr. Young, had written down an interesting study dealing with the strands of DNA and what they mean numerically and how it comes to the name of God. It's amazing.
We'll be covering that.
We'll be covering that, yeah. But Satan despises everything that is made in God's image and has been striving for thousands of years to take God's creation and corrupt it. So it's no longer part of God's kingdom.
So how did we get here? The days of Noah. Jesus said, "As it was in the days of Noah, so will it be at the coming of the Son of Man." So, and God saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. And it repented the Lord that he had made man and every creature on the earth, and it grieved his heart. So this is what was going on in the days of Noah. But we're going to also talk about the Book of Giants. The Book of Giants was one of the many manuscripts that was found in the caves of Qumran in 1947, now known as the Dead Sea Scrolls. The Book of Giants describes in detail how the fallen angels insidiously corrupted the genetics of all flesh on the earth. And so this is coming from the fragments of the Book of Giants, where it reads, 200 donkeys, 200 asses, 200 rams of the flock, 200 goats, 200 beasts of the field, from every animal, from every bird, were selected for miscegenation. They defiled, they begot giants and monsters. They begot, and behold, all the earth was corrupted. So miscegenation refers to the mixing of races or species. This was extreme cross-species genetics involving the seed of the fallen angels themselves. So this is what was happening during the days of Noah, and this is what's happening again right now.
Yeah, this is great. Of course, longtime listeners are ecstatic to get such a organized review of stuff that we've been talking about for over a decade. And for those who are new, this is a great intro into a lot of the background and inside jokes and references that you might not get on the show very often. So this is killing too many birds with one stone. I appreciate it.
I would like to just, I'm sorry, just real quick. The reference to the Book of Giants is great because I think it speaks to, and this is a point that's been made about this Genesis 6 paradigm, if you will, is that all ancient mythologies points to this event, these types of events going on. And it explains a lot of Greek mythology, Roman mythology, all that stuff, Sumerian mythology. So it's not unfamiliar to ancient times. And I think it's interesting that we live in the times when the only thing that makes sense is this really old mythology about mixing genes and all that stuff.
Yeah, that appears from many writers from different perspectives and tells the same story, which is, the historicity of it is compelling.
Yeah.
It's alarming when you hear also even things like stories about even the giants in the last couple of hundred years with the red hair and the 6 fingers on separate continents. It's
and
wild.
The skulls, the big elongated skulls as well.
Yeah, exactly. We had L.A. Marzulli on recently giving us an update on his research trips there as well. So people should be catching up here. This is great.
I love L.A. Marzulli. Love his work too. He helped us out a lot as well when we were coming back to God.
Oh, cool.
Good man. Good man.
Very cool.
Yeah, great man.
Okay, so how did we get here? Noah's Ark. So God put animals into the ark, each according to its kind. All of them were perfect in their genetics. And Noah, also righteous in his generation as well. They're all on the ark. And so you see the GMO free, right? These are the animals that were created by God's template. God only wanted pure genetic material that he created on the ark.
How did we get here? Nimrod, transhumanism, the Tower of Babel, and artificial intelligence. So Noah cursed his son Ham, who later on had a son called Cush, who then became Nimrod, who was the first transhuman on the earth after Noah. Nimrod became the founder of the Babylonian mystery schools and the Tower of Babel. Noah also cursed all of the Canaanites, the land of the giants, who were also transhuman hybrids, not of pure genetic material. This was rooted in the Babylonian mystery schools, which led to the Tower of Babel, which is the intellectual equivalent of the artificial intelligence transhuman movement that is happening today. The Babylonian mystery schools also founded what we know today as the beast system, the members of whom are the children of darkness.
Yeah, this is great. And for those who are caught the now volumes of Burning Man research that we've done over the years and tuning into the boots on the ground reports and the different sort of audio explorations we put together. I mean, this is directly celebrated at places like Burning Man, but in the culture of the sort of technocrats who take the form of kind of hippy dippy type people. But as we've learned, there's really no hippies at Burning Man. They're all technocrats. And the celebration of the Tower of Babel, especially this last year, the celebration of transhumanism in different themed years like iRobot and Metamorphosis, and the annual celebration of this exact moment in history, but taking it from sort of a Luciferian type perspective, where Nimrod was the good guy. These were good guys trying to, take the Promethean fire and prove themselves against God and become gods themselves, et cetera, et cetera. Starts as very humanist message. And of course is a veiled transhumanist message, meaning that we are responsible for our own ascension out of our meager humanness, which is, all wrapped up with this sort of original curse on society. You wonder why any society eventually crumbles is because it's basically replaying this story of the Tower of Babel, where humanity as a whole thought that they could overcome the divine mechanics of the universe. And says right there, God was speaking to whoever else was with him at the moment, saying, "Oh, these guys can actually kind of do whatever they want. These guys are dangerous."
Yeah, you're referencing the Tower of Babel there.
Tower of Babel, yes.
Yeah. And by the way, you brought up the beast system, so might as well play this here.
Yeah.
Speaking of the beast system, beast system.
We got jingles for stuff like that.
Gotta
Continue.
I want that. I gotta get one of those.
Get your jingle board
Everyone
going,
needs a
baby.
B system jingle. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so God wrote his name on our DNA. What you see on the left is a summary of where we're going with. Did you know that God's name is coded in our DNA? And his name is Yahweh, but spelled, with the YHVHWH.
Yeah.
I'm looking.
Yahweh.
Okay, so it's like a signature or a patent of ownership. Your creator marked you with his name. Now, our DNA is made up of 4 nucleic acids, adenine, guanine, thymine, and cytosine, which are held together by a sulfuric bridge, which appears constantly in the following pattern as far as like the space and the linkages in the winding is like 10, 5, 6, and 5. And in the Hebrew, that is exactly the name of God, Yahweh. We are truly made in his image. And it's in Genesis 1:7. God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them, male and female. So we are literally in our DNA. We are marked by his image, and the Lord knows who are his.
Yeah.
Before I formed you. Oh, go ahead.
I'm so sorry. That was the worst time to interrupt. But I was going to, for anybody who's not familiar, the Hebraic alphabet, every letter has a number assigned to it. They had numbers and letters were sort of interchangeable. And you're saying this 10-5-6-5 corresponds exactly to the spelling of God's name in the Old Testament.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Exactly.
Amazing.
It is
incredible. It floored me when I first learned this.
So in Jeremiah 1:5, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. And before you were born, I consecrated you. And in Timothy 2:19, nevertheless, the firm foundation of God stands, having this seal: the Lord knows those who are his.
Mm.
And then
in the end days, Jesus will say to many, depart from me, for I never knew you. And so you can look at that verse and say, well, maybe God's not going to recognize this changed DNA that he's looking at in the end times.
Yeah. I mean, it just puts a whole new perspective on, of course, GMOs and CRISPR technology, but also companies like 23andMe, putting your DNA in a database and it's getting sold back and forth. It's like you literally have your image of God being used in sort of international sort of business money witchcraft stuff going on. It's crazy.
Yeah, and it also ties into Revelation 13, the mark and the image of the beast is sort of the counterfeit there, because the folks who get those things are, their torment goes up forever. They don't have salvation. And in my opinion, it kind of solves some of the disputes that happened in old school theology with Calvinism and stuff like that. If you look at the eschatology, it's kind of like, there's a clear wheat and tares type of situation going on. There's something about this generation that takes the mark and accepts the image and all this stuff, that they are irredeemable, and they may look kind of like normal people, but stuff might be different going on inside.
That's offensive. That's so offensive.
Well, you know what happens to the folks who believe that, according to the end times scriptures there. So anyway, continue.
So how do they do genetic engineering to alter your DNA? So CRISPR-Cas9 technology uses a pair of molecular scissors that cut strands of your DNA for removal of different DNA that can be grafted in. The NIH states that CRISPR-Cas9 is editing the book of life. That's Fauci's head right there, with molecular scissors. So all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose name are not written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world, Revelation 13:8. And whosoever was not found written in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire, Revelation 20:15. And there shall in no means enter into anything that defiles or causes an abomination or a lie, but only they that are written in the Lamb's book of life, Revelation 21:27. So just let the Spirit interpret that to you and your soul about what's actually going on here. right? Genetic engineering is the mingling of species. The NIH article dated August 4th, 2022 describes altering DNA by adding a gene from one species to an organism from a different species to produce a desired result. Used in research for cancer therapies, brewing yeast, genetically modified plants, livestock, and more.
Deoxyribonucleic.
Thank you. Deoxyribonucleic acid, DNA. Thank you. I'm just citing all the papers that we're getting this information from. These are all white papers in scientific journals and articles. But also, as it was, as the days of Noah were, so shall be the coming of the Son of Man. All flesh is not the same flesh, but there is one kind of flesh of men, another of beasts, another of fishes, and another of birds. There are also celestial bodies and bodies terrestrial, angels and mankind. But the glory of the celestial is one, and the glory of the terrestrial is another. That's 1 Corinthians. Our DNA is the code of life, which is God's name, God's number, God's mark, and God's image.
Mm-hmm.
Amen. Yeah.
So let's talk about the triple helix and calculating the number of a man.
Okay, so God created us with a double helix in our DNA. And then the helix structure was discovered by Dr. Francis Crick and Dr. James Watson in 1953. Then Dr. Crick mentioned in one of his original interviews that they counted that humans have 144,000 genes, with 72,000 genes on each helix. Now, since that time, I don't know if you want to call this a softened action or what have you, but there's been much debate on the number skewing from the pro-evolutionary theory crowd of scientists. Okay, so the patents for the code, can we say COVID on this shot?
Yeah.
Yeah,
We'll throw in a disclaimer. We'll do the whole deal. It'll be fine.
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
I'm just trying to think.
if people are tuning in on YouTube, they will eventually be told to head over to Rumble to finish the show. So,
Okay.
yeah, you don't need to hold back too much. It's just a matter of when exactly that
The hammer comes down.
When the hammer comes down and people get led over to Rumble.
Okay. So patents for the recent shots clearly state that the technology in those shots induces a triple helix in our DNA. These modified polynucleotides for the production of secreted proteins is under a Google patent. There's a citation there.
Yeah, and I clipped out the spots in the patent where it says the RNAs that induce triple helix formation, and over here it says it again, RNAs that induce triple helix formation. So it's talking about the mRNA injections, and so it says it right there in the patent that that's what it's doing.
Yeah.
And, let's not forget the ceremony that was held in 2022 at Windsor Castle, where they lit up a triple helix DNA on the lawn to go to the Tree of Life, all symbolic that, their plans are coming to fruition.
Yeah, right. The triple helix DNA thing, we had come in contact with this long time ago, back when it was a totally different world. And it was one of those things that I was like, okay, guys, all right, we're having fun with it now. Okay, sure, triple helix DNA. But it's on Wikipedia. Like the triple helix DNA thing is totally common knowledge. Totally like unobstructed scientific fact that you don't hear very often, but is indeed like an entirely common idea that goes into so many things, not only showing up on Wikipedia and NIH.gov and everything like that, but like you said, in these patents for mRNA technology.
Yeah, and before we move on, a couple things. First, since you brought up CRISPR on that last slide, we have to play this jingle.
You can't take the
CRISPR.
You can't take the
Cas9.
That's our CRISPR jingle.
Gotta do it.
And then we have, I think Fauci had a response to some of the stuff you're talking about here.
You do not know what you are talking about.
There's good old Tony.
Well, he is so
Great.
But I also, just to root it, and this is something that I talked about in Age of Deceit 3, and it's just so compelling to me. I want to interject it, if I will. I can say that in this conversation, and it's coming from Daniel 7:5. In Daniel 7, the beasts, the lion, leopard, and bear, and then the fourth beast is discussed, and that the bear, specifically Daniel 7:5, it says, "And behold, another beast, a second one like a bear. It was raised up on one side. It had 3 ribs in its mouth between its teeth, and it was told, Arise, devour much flesh." And I had looked at it in Age of Deceit 3, and I thought, that's weird, because, if you think about a few things. One, if you talk about bears in general, throughout the Bible, they're very vicious, but they're very protective of their offspring, of their cubs. So they're violent only in that they're protecting their cubs. So there's something there. And then also the ribs, going to, Genesis 2:2 and how woman was made. God took a rib out of Adam, put him to sleep, and then created woman. And so it's just interesting to me that this bear has 3 ribs in its teeth. Maybe it's a reference to the triple helix conversation. And then arise, devour much flesh. We're talking about the corruption of flesh. So I find it very fascinating that there's stuff in the word like this. And, I get it. This is way outside traditional commentary on this passage, but it just in the contemporary sense of stuff going on, it's stuff like this that makes me go, there must be a lot more to the word than we even understand. So back to you guys.
The word is incredible because it really has so many layers to it. And that's what it is to know the deeper things of God. Now, this is interesting. So if you, this comes from the work from a YouTube channel called Dreaming of Heaven on YouTube, A Mingling of the Seeds, Part 1. So if you take the verse in Revelation 13:8, here is wisdom, let him that has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it's the number of a man, and his number is 666. So if you calculate 600 times 60 times 6, you get 216,000. Now, if you have 72,000 genes per helix, so the normal helix that the double helix that God gave us is 144,000, but 72 times 3 for a triple helix gives us 216,000, the number of a man. So
it's interesting.
So is that true? Each is that true? Each strand has 72,000. What now? What exactly?
Genes.
Does it have?
So
genes?
yeah.
Okay.
So going back here, the guys who.
No, watch and quick, you're there.
Here we go. The guys who discovered the DNA helixes back in 1953, when they were first asked, how many genes did you count?
That was the initial number they gave.
They initially said 144,000. But then after that, all these other scientists came in and said, well, actually, no, the count is this. And so there's some debate there. I'm just, yeah, it is interesting. So it's just, if that were true, and it wasn't, and it was just hidden and obfuscated on purpose, then
like carbon dating, but
then a triple strand of helix would be the same number that is 600 times 60 times 6.
Wow. Yeah, I am over here on science.org, and it is referencing 72,000 genes per dealio there. So okay, so this is a pretty common number, it looks like.
Yeah. Now, we'll talk a little bit about Operation War on the Seed.
Okay, so we are familiar with Operation Warp Speed. And we have the Operation Warp Speed was a public-private partnership that was initiated by the United States government to facilitate and accelerate the development of manufacturing and distribution of these vaccines and the therapeutics and the diagnostics. And that's out of Wikipedia. And we also have, now I don't know how you pronounce this word, this symbol.
Antichrist, the Antichrist.
Okay, Antichrist. When you're breaking down the symbology for the badge that represented that operation.
You're like, why did they have to make it like that?
It was, you start getting into the symbols and why that's used. And that's one of them is this Antichrist is a concept in Hindu philosophy referring to the totality of the mind, including the thinking faculty, the sense of I-ness, so it's a self, and the discriminating faculty. The anta means the inner, and the karana means the instrument or function.
It symbolizes like the mind, the metapon, the forehead.
Yeah.
Right. And then we've also got the 3 Hebrew letters, WWW or VVV, which is 666. That's these things coming out here. Then we've got the Yud, which is a Hebrew letter, which means the arm, hand, praise, or, the forehead and the hand, right? And then we've got 13 pentagrams. In the Bible, 13 represents rebellion and lawlessness. So this, again, is the work from Dreaming of Heaven on YouTube. And I just wanted to make sure we brought that out, because why did they put all these symbols on this particular operation, War on the Seed?
Yeah, that's really
And I
interesting.
it was fascinating. It's all right there. And, I think that the allowance of God is what we're seeing. Like they have to tell us, because God wants to make sure that we still have free will to choose, as long as, we're being told what's going on, for those that have the eyes to see, to dig a little bit deeper and find out what's going on. So if you look for the signs and the symbols, you can see a lot. The Spirit of God will show you a lot. So this is about merging man with machine through our DNA. So check this out. Our DNA is made up out of those 4 nucleic acids, the adenine, the guanine, the thymine, and the cytosine. In this patent for the mRNA injections, it discusses changing our DNA by adding 2 extra cytosines, bringing our DNA from the ATCG to ATCCG. So what are the 2 extra cytosines for, is the question that we would ask. And if you look up the history of cytosine,
it gets interesting.
In Wikipedia, in 1998, cytosine was used in an early demonstration of quantum information processing when Oxford's University researchers implemented the Deutsch-Jozsa algorithm on a 2-qubit nuclear magnetic resonance quantum computer. So cytosine is used in quantum computing and artificial intelligence.
That blew me away.
Yeah, sort of DNA-based quantum computing.
Yeah.
Yes. And,
wow.
If you follow like any of the technology magazines over the last 20 years also, it jives with other university research around the world dealing with making chips that do calculations by strands of DNA, and their ability to store lots of information.
Yeah, we've been following that. It's like the most scientific thing. Sci-fi thing that's going on all around us, that you just tell somebody this is happening and there's just no way that they will believe you when you just tell them. It's like, it's been going on for a while, guys. Come on.
It's going on for a while. We don't have like, I'm not sure if I want to have one, DNA etched hard drive or a holographic processor unit that's driven by light, but these things exist.
If you go to nanotechnology.gov, there's a history timeline of the development of all of this particular type of technology. And it shows you, what was it, 1990s, the quantum computers?
Yes.
Right? So there's a history. It's been around for a very long time. Now, this part right here, I actually blew it up on the next slide, because in Wikipedia, if you type emerging technologies into Wikipedia, this is where all this technology that we're going to be talking about is housed under. And if you look on the side, it's kind of hard to make it out because it's a little small. So some of the titles here of the technology, I'll put artificial intelligence, gene therapy, nanotechnology, blockchain technology, augmented reality, cancer vaccines, and DARPA. Those are some of the types of technologies that are listed underneath what they call emerging technologies. That's the industry. There we go.
Great.
Right? So right now look on the right side of that page. What's that say?
Transhuman.
Transhumanism. Yeah, wow. And it's got the transhumanism logo there.
The H plus logo. Yeah, humanity plus.
Like, why is it even?
Right. So
it's sort of inexplicably presented there. That's very interesting.
This is a humongous industry. This is where all the money's going. This is where all the there's tons of college kids going to school to learn how to work in this industry.
The graduate programs.
There are millions of white papers describing the technology. This is humongous, and it's all nobody voted for this, by the way. It's like,
right. Yeah. Well, that's the sort of core principle of technocracy and the technocrats, is that they have to save society from the people. It's very anti-democratic in that way. And just for anybody following at home, following along at home here, that's nano.gov. Nano.gov. Look, the National Nanotechnology Initiative.
Yeah. If I can jump in real quick and comment on the quantum piece there with the cyto, what was it? The substance they're used for quantum computing. Cytosine. Yeah. I've been looking at a lot of, obviously for Age of Deceit 4, I've been researching a lot on the sort of meshing of quantum, blockchain, DNA, AI. It's all sort of coming together as like one thing.
Yes.
And it's creating this living machine type of situation, and it's bridging the biological with the machine and the technological and all this kind of stuff. But there are interesting articles out there like this one from Popular Mechanics. In the headline here is, "Your very own consciousness can interact with the whole universe," scientists believe. And their whole paper here is article is about how there are quantum processes happening in your brain. And so when you have higher states of consciousness, what you're doing is tapping into a larger fractal of creation and reality. No, they don't say creation. They say some kind of fabric of time-space reality. So it's getting really woo-woo in the science, the bleeding edge of science, to the point where it is becoming religious. And the only explanation is a more spiritual explanation for everything.
Yeah,
so
techno spirituality, and this is coming from popular science, popular mechanics, which is like, they're not very woo woo over there. This is, they, from what I understand, they sort of attempt to align public opinion more specifically with, like, the scientists themselves, try to dispel a lot of the woo-woo stuff. And either they've changed their policy, or, the mainstream legacy science reporting wants to sort of align people with this sort of consciousness interaction with your brain, which is very interesting. Of course, refers to, the old Operation Stargate papers and other programs like that. And it's funny because there are people out there who've been looking at this for a long time and sort of get excited about the victory of, everybody, it's being declassified. Look at this. And unfortunately, it sort of triggers something in me that's like, oh no, they want us all on board.
It's declassified because they're ready to go with the with the product.
Without the spiritual armor. Yes.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever plan they had, they're finally ready to unleash it on us. Great.
Yeah. Run out onto the battlefield with no weapons.
Yeah.
But I also there is a physical component to that, what you were saying, Gons, which is through neuroscience and what they're doing with the brain initiative and the brain to brain interfaces. So there's that's a whole other area that we're not covering in this presentation, but you'll have to tune in again.
But it may answer the question, why cytosine? Of all the other possible modes of a quantum algorithm, why use something that is within living DNA?
Right.
That is interesting.
Yeah. Why not figure something out? They love to make synthetic everything else.
Yeah. So what we're going to go through now is a summary of what was discovered in the last batch of injections that came out over the last 3 years. Nanotechnology network injected into the body through the shots. And so what was found in the injections, if you look at groups like La Quinta Columna and other scientists who had microscopes and who were able to get access to vials, what they found under these microscopes, they matched it with publications by research working with nanotechnology and in biosystems. And what they found were the following components: nanorouters that emit MAC addresses via Bluetooth. Those are the immediate access control addresses that some people seem to be emitting from their bodies now. nano antennas and plasmonic antennas to amplify the signals within the body, nanorectennas as a rectifier bridge of alternating and direct current. These things need to be powered electrically. Codecs, like the same thing, like codec types of software, so you can play audio and video. But codecs were identified as the devices that perform that function in the data stream or in the signal. They had logic gates. They found logic gates that were pieces of hardware that would perform basic binary functions like and, or, not true, false, and less than. And presumably these would be used for the encryption of the traffic that is transmitting and receiving from the body. And then they match these to patents that describe how they will hook up human beings to the Internet of Things via 5G. And we're referring to the AT&T patent for routing policies for biological hosts, and the devices and methods for transferring data through a human body. That was also AT&T, and the infamous Microsoft patent cryptocurrency system using body activity data.
Yeah. Okay. Now, this is where I think, for me personally, I need to ask some questions here. It's common knowledge now. It's out in the media. It's not even conspiracy theory anymore that at least the inspections of the vials that delivered the product showed that dangerous levels of DNA were present in those vials. This is a result of the manufacturing process of the first batch that was tested, allegedly, and approved, was made with manufacturing protocol 1. When it became approved, they switched over, for cost reasons, to a new manufacturing process. This was a sloppy manufacturing process that used DNA in a way that they weren't supposed to, wasn't tested, wasn't approved. And so it's sort of officially known now that there was DNA contamination. And SV40, I believe, simian virus 40, was one of the most concerning pieces of DNA because it's sort of a known carcinogen. Now, that is sort of out there, and that is now more colloquially and sort of widespread information. This you're talking about here, this is getting into the nanobot range here. So when you say they found, let's see if I can get close enough to read it, nano routers, nano antennas, nano rectennas, codecs, logic gates. What exactly is that? Is that an actual little robot? Is that, now we know that they have gotten very good at creating robots out of biological material. Sort of recently and famously, the disclosure that they've made robots out of frog cells or something like that, where they can take the frog cell, builds, whatever, equip it with the ability to kind of swim around and do whatever, and they can actually give it programming that it follows the programming. Now, of course, this is the, legacy media, so are we getting the whole story? Are we getting the whole thing? Whatever. These objects, what exactly are we talking about here? Are these little manufactured mechanical objects? Are they biological robots like we know they can do? Well, codecs. I understand codecs to be more of a software thing. And how did they find out what's going on in there?
Right. So to answer your question, it's A, B, and C. It's
yes is the answer.
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
So there's a couple of ways of approaching this. We don't fully know everything that's inside these shots, unless you read through how many hundreds of pages that was released from the court.
Yeah.
There's a famous court case where Pfizer actually had to release at least
Yeah, a lot of
a version of what was in the shots.
They were trying not to. They were trying to hang on to it for
Was it 70 years
75
or 80
years
years
or something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah,
a
and then
generation.
it's been very slowly
what was published,
unredacted.
it was hundreds of pages.
Okay.
Thousands, tens of thousands of pages.
And it was just lists of things that I didn't go through. There's only a fraction of the pages that we saw.
So is this information, the nanoradars, the nano antennas, et cetera, is this people are deducing that's what these are by the documents released?
Yeah. So
Or-
Yes.
So
Okay.
Right. So
Mick Anderson from La Quinta Columna, that's a group of researchers in several different countries.
Okay.
So they're all looking at the vials under the microscope, and they are on the left side is like a picture
of what they
of
would
what
find.
they would find, and then they were also looking at scientific publications and papers, many of which come from the IEEE industry
that were
that
consistent.
describe nanotechnology and matching them up, saying this looked like a codec and this looks like a nano router.
Right. So finding
so-
finding actual objects and then finding those objects in different research and then finding the patents that declare what those objects are meant to do.
Yes.
Yes, and then since in the past few years, you had corroborating evidence of other researchers that would take a sample, expose it to their router in their house, with 4G LTE, seeing these samples assemble into structures through the microscope real time, and then when they turn off the router in their room, those structures disassemble.
Yeah,
and this is like a repeated process.
That's true. I have seen a bunch of really weird stuff like that. I've never seen it sort of compiled, referencing these patents and referencing the studies. So there's a very helpful page you have.
Yeah,
here.
and this one slide is just a summary of a larger report that was put together and translated into English. I think it was originally in Spanish. By Mick Anderson from the La Quinta Columna group. And we always try to link everything that we talk about on our blog post behind our presentation. So if you were to go to our website and type in, Mick Anderson or some keyword on our website, you would be able to pull up the link that will bring you right to that PDF. So you could read through the entire report for yourself so that you could see each and every piece that they're finding and and how they deduce what it is.
And I know we're going to talk a little bit more about it as we go on the presentation, but to answer your question, Basil, that itself is a giant landmine, because when you type in the word biosensors, for example, or nano actuators, anything at the scale that we're looking at, which is a couple by tens to a couple hundred nanometers wide, these are things that can fit within a genetically modified bacterium. They're single cell. These structures can exist on their own, like the chips. Literally, these are chips that are etched through the microchip manufacturing plant, like maybe from like a high. Maybe think of whatever the high tech facility in Asia that would make nanometer chips. That they would use that method, and then put into a situation where it's free floating within the vial.
Yeah.
So exist on its own, or can be merged with a genetically modified bacterium. And that is designed to perform a function, that is designed to emit a certain macromolecule or a liposome or a special type of protein, or so they mix and merge living and synthetic, which is why it's difficult to get a handle on this. Because you're looking at the work of hundreds of labs and hundreds of thousands of people in their research, which is available online. But you have to be in a graduate course. You have to have the brain to do a Google search and the right words, and you find all this stuff popping up. Biosensors, this genetically modified bacteria to carry the biosensors, that, and it's all under the Internet of Things, all of it.
Yeah, I'm looking at it here.
Manhattan Project.
Oh, so Basil, you're on the search. And
so just to be clear, because I don't know if we've actually said it yet, your website is hopegirlblog.com, And yes, I ran a quick search for Mick Anderson. I found your post here, and it's very, very thorough with lots of links and stuff. I haven't gone through it piece by piece, but yeah, I see you've put together quite the collection of information that people can click around on and verify it for themselves.
Just as a commentary, when the COVID lockdown started, immediately there were people shouting about the 5G towers, and it became this divisive issue. It was a mainstream issue. Oh, everyone thinks the COVID or at least the vaccines have something to do with 5G and blah, blah, blah. And it was almost at the time, it almost felt like, oh, they're just trying to corner conspiracy theorists and falsely label these people that are seeking the truth and stuff. But in hindsight, it could have been a very strategic operation to get everybody to think that anyone who even considers that are just crazy conspiracy theorists. Yeah. And we had always been cautious about those claims because, especially during 2020, 2021,
in the midst of it,
there wasn't a lot of open doc. I mean, there is now in hindsight. I think you can find more stuff, but we were very careful because there were a lot of people that just making super crazy claims of the kind of shaky type of evidence. But we started to look at the nuance and see, okay, what does it mean for because nanoparticles exist, but is that the same as nanotechnology? And I think you're right.
Or nanobots. Nanobots was the word that we had a problem with at the time.
Yes. Right. It was sort of, because what does it
even mean?
Yeah. So once you're talking about the scale that we're talking about is you take a couple nanoparticles and you manufacture it, therefore is it considered a bot? Is it not?
It certainly could be nanotechnology, which is funny for us because we've actually had the foremost nanotechnician on this show years ago. He was the guy who wrote the textbook for nanotechnology, like 10 years ago or something.
Yeah.
So we're always kind of trying to. I mean, it's a hard thing to do as a person looking for the truth nowadays, because you really want to be careful not to get swept away in whatever infiltration, intelligence wants to put into the community. And the fun part is we are now far enough out from the event that there has now been years of research, years of scientific resilient sort of scientific, I don't know what the word is, not declassification.
Well, but paper trail, really.
Yeah,
there's just public stuff. So I have showing here the AP article. It's from 2023.
Yeah, this is a perfect example.
Yeah, the headline is, no, COVID vaccines don't contain nanotechnology that we can program via 5G wireless networks. A very specific. It's almost like they're saying we can't quite do that yet, but we're working on it. It's sort of
it's like we can only get 4G on here.
But evil good and good evil, and they'll say no nanotechnology when there is technology.
Right. Right. And then you go to a paper that was published a couple years before that, NIH.gov in 2021, nanocarriers of COVID-19 vaccine, the main pillars of efficacy.
It's a pillar.
Yeah, it's a pillar. There's and then you go down. I have it highlighted here. As shown in Table 1, vaccines have evolved from live attenuated viruses to more sophisticated nano-sized biotools, like purified molecular antigens or genetically engineered molecules currently in use. So they're basically saying that, we're able to operate at the nanoscale now.
It's not nanotechnology, it's nano-sized biotools.
Exactly.
That's just a floating socket wrench in nanoscale. It's not animated or anything.
Right. So they're sort of, I think there is multiple things going on with the reality of the situation, the media spinning it, creating the public misdirection to keep people off of the trail, because it is troubling when you start really thinking about it.
Yes,
I don't see any good outcome to any of this, but anyway, let's get back to the.
Well, you're not a technocrat, Gons.
I'm sorry.
Understand.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm not. I don't want to control everything.
It's almost a little embarrassing because there are so many papers that are easy to find, free. You can at least
it's literally within 2 or 3 pages you can find a paper.
You can do Google searches and you can look at images. And we've been reading through all of these papers. And so the information is right there. but they have done enough psychological operations, mind control on the general public that nobody will read. They won't read papers.
Yeah.
They won't look a little bit deeper. They get scared because it's big, fancy words and like, I don't understand technology. And then they shut their minds to it, but they'll do anything that the TV tells them to do.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's a spell. They're under a spell.
Exactly.
The information's right there.
Yep.
You know?
Doing your own research is right-wing extremism.
Exactly.
There you go.
Exactly.
All
Let's
right,
talk
let's
about
keep going.
the abomination of desolation in the temple of God. So do you not know that your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit who is in you, whom you have received from God? You are not your own. You are bought at a price. Therefore, glorify God with your body. 1 Corinthians 6:19. So Jesus told us that one of the signs of the last days would be that we would see the abomination of desolation in the temple, the holy place. Many believe that the abominations against God's creation that are found in the injections inside of people's bodies are what he is referring to here. When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet stand in the holy place, whoso readeth, let him understand. So these are some of the things that they have found in the injections so far, things like the Hydra vulgaris organisms, microchips, parasites, steel and aluminum metals, graphene oxide, microbubbles, and aborted human fetal tissue. So that is just because people are waiting for like some guy to stand in a physical temple, but you know, others can look at this deeper and say it's the abominations that are inside of your body, which is the temple of God. So now we're going to go and talk about the wireless body area network, or the WBAN, which I think I call it the evil web to ensnare humanity. When I asked God to show me in the Bible a scripture that would spiritually symbolize what the WBAN is, he showed me webs in the book of Job. They have saturated everything with their web of technology. So in the book of Job, Bildad describes the dangerous path of the wicked. His vigorous stride is shortened, and his own schemes bring him down, for he is thrown into the net by his own feet, and he steps on the webbing. A snare seizes him by the heel, and a trap snap shuts on him. A noose for him is hidden in the ground, and a trap for him on the path. All around terrors frighten him and harry him at every step. His strength is famished, and calamity is ready at his side. Such, and also in Job chapter 8:14, such is the destiny of all who forget God. So the hope of the godless will perish. His confidence is fragile. His security is in a spider's web.
Fascinating.
He leans on his web, but it gives way. He holds fast, but it does not endure.
So when we think about the web,
Well, it's just when we go, so we're going to describe to you what this wireless body area network is right now. And just keep that in mind, because I think that I feel in my spirit that that's what this is. It's the evil web to ensnare humanity. And you see how they've saturated everything, our bodies, inside of our bodies, outside of our bodies, our environments, the food, the air. It's just covered
It's
with
impossible.
this technology and this debris. I mean, it's like we're stuck in a web, right? So here's just a little bit of a background summary about emerging technology control.
okay, so they have established a control grid that consists of emerging technology that connects human bodies to the internet and also to an autonomous weapon system. We're calling it a weapon system. This is being done by $1 trillion industry under the IEEE, which is the Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineers, with millions of engineers, scientists, and chemists, and biomedical engineers working over the decades that have published countless white papers documenting the advancement and deployment of these emerging technologies, which have been deployed on humans without their knowledge or consent. This control grid overrides and violates every human right, every law, in every local government and constitution of every country in the world. It is what I believe, or what we believe, the Bible refers to as the beast in the end times.
So the wireless
Reminds
body.
me.
Oh yeah,
Sorry. It reminds me of guns. We brought that study from, I think it was BMJ. I could be wrong about that, but it almost didn't belong in a scientific journal. But the study was basically concluded it is morally imperative. It is morally good that we technocrats upgrade people without their consent. It is, it is the moral thing to do to secretly upgrade people without their consent. We don't require it. It's very disturbing.
I mean, basically, this can be viewed as a form of rape because that's what it is. You know, our bodies are being used as a communications propagation system since 1995. They started building this network. So it's called the Wireless Body Area Network, or the WBAN. It's a body sensor network connecting independent nodes such as sensors and actuators that are located inside your body and around your body. We'll get into that in a second. They're situated in the clothes, on the body, or under the skin of a person. The network typically expands over the whole human body, and the nodes are connected through a wireless communication channel. And there's all kinds of cybersecurity around that channel as well. So it's not like you can access the network that they're running off of your body. Only certain people have the controls to that particular network. So we just showed here, if you type in wireless body area network on a Google search and you look for different,
perfect example,
academic papers coming from the IEEE, this is one of the many images that you will find showing you what the wireless body area network is. Over here on the left is just showing you how computer networking is arranged. So first you've got the nano network, which is a network of biosensors, which is inside of your body, or a body area network. And then the body area network is outside of that, which is the network inside of your personal area network, which is like your computer, your electric devices, your personal workspace. And then that's inside of a local area network, or an LAN, which is a network in limited areas like a university campus, residence, which sits inside of a CAN. So just to show you, like, the biosensors that we're going to talk about,
inside,
they're here. They're in the nanoscale. They're small, they're tiny, and they're inside of you. We all have them. We all have them.
To some degree.
So let's tell you what
it's like microplastics. It's like microplastics. How would you even avoid it if you wanted to? It's almost impossible.
But we believe what happened recently, it was a giant upgrade, a giant leap forward for these people that had this plan to get this stuff in people's bodies. So now we're going to go just a brief overview of what biosensors are. So a biosensor is an integrated receptor transducer device which can convert a biological response. Let's get into a better view here.
Here you go.
A biological response into an electrical signal. The design and the development of biosensors have taken center stage for researchers or scientists in recent decade, owing to the wide range of biosensor applications, such as, this is always used, healthcare and disease diagnosis, environmental monitoring, water and food quality monitoring, and drug delivery. So biosensors have been around since 1956, being the first one being electrochemical. They were made commercially available in 2010. So right there, you have to think from 1956 to 2010, what the heck was going on?
Lots of development, that's for sure.
And many different kinds of biosensors have been developed and are used for all sorts of different things. There are several kinds of biosensors. You have optical, the ones that operate on light. You have piezoelectric, ones that operate with crystals, where the crystal is changed in its dimensions and give off an electrical impulse, or vice versa. You have electrochemical, which is a combination. And then you have an hybridized synthetic biology one. That last one is the one that can encapsulate all the others, and is the one that has a living single-celled entity or set of them in unison with the stuff I just mentioned. There are over 1 million ways that biosensors have been put into human bodies without a person's knowledge or consent, through the air, water, food, vaccines, and etc. Biosensors also have the ability to modify the DNA of the subject. They are micro and nano in scale and are located in the interstitial fluid between your cells. Biosensors use your body's natural electric energy to power themselves and emit a data signal that is connected to the Internet of Things. They communicate with electricity just like your cell phone. And cell phones can be bootstrap devices for biosensors, meaning your cell phones can receive the data from the biosensor close to it and retransmit it to the cloud.
Like a mesh network type of thing.
Like a mesh network, yes. Now, the biosensors that are made out of hybridizing your DNA emit a signal using electrochemical elements such as light and can be controlled using optogenetics, controlling biological systems through light. Now, there's been examples of that. You can find it even on YouTube, but also papers where receptors that migrate to your eyes, to the cones, the light cones in your eyes, can modify those cones so that when you flash certain colors of light, you become a lot more sensitive to those specific colors, and you can information can be relayed to your body that way. And then there's some citation dealing with.
There's a big paper that came out like on InfoWars several months back called "The Effect of Coronavirus Worldwide Through Misusing of Wireless Sensor Networks." So they were basically saying that people were getting sick because the wireless body area network was hitting the biosensors in people's bodies way too much, which was because they're also energy harvesting. So they literally suck the life out of you when they're hitting you with these signals. So that's what this paper came out a few months ago, and it was covered on
2 to 3 years ago.
No, well, the paper came out a couple of years ago, but
Right.
it went out on the alternative news circuit a few months back, and it basically brought this concept of biosensors and wireless body area networks to everyone's awareness that this has been going on.
So can I ask, you said everybody already has these things. Is that just a logical conclusion, or is there some sort of evidence or pictures of these things or something like that? How would anybody know that they have something like this, and where would it have come from?
Well, it's been going on since 1956. They've been developing biosensors, and there's many papers that discuss how they use the biosensors in different areas of life, such as in the weather, in chemtrail spraying, geoengineering, in the food.
In recent years, though, in the last
Right.
at least in the last year or two, because of what's happened to the population,
Right.
there have been some scientists like you have Dr. Mahalsha or Dr. Nixon and some others who have taken samples from patients, those who've taken the vaccine and those who haven't taken the vaccine, to see what's going on in the blood. And people are finding artifacts in the blood. But again, it matters
In
whether
both-
it was
in both groups or
accumulation.
no? Sorry, they're finding artifacts in both groups or one group?
Yes, in both groups.
Yeah.
In both groups.
Okay.
But the one
Got it.
group, obviously the ones that get a direct hit, have a lot of other things going on in their blood.
Got it.
But everyone in general has stuff floating around in their blood that shouldn't be in their blood.
Yeah.
That reacts to certain things like black light,
Yeah.
blinking systems and structures and things like that. But as far as I want to say, as far as the lethality and its ability to proliferate and do what it's doing, those who've taken that injection, it's on a whole other level.
It does not
but also
stretch does not stretch the imagination that there were, other ways people could get it. Of course, there's lots of talk about shedding or whatever in that case. But again, I kind of go back to, it almost doesn't even require that. It's just, do you drink the water? Do you eat the food?
Yes.
Do you breathe the air?
It makes sense that you're saying that it's like the whole situation the last few years with COVID and everything and the vaccines is the next step or next level, because they can just go right into your body. Whereas before it was more environmental, it was based on food, air, water. It's an
Yes.
upgrade.
Well, there's a couple of really important points to bring up here.
Yeah.
So first of all, because there's people saying it's in everything, so why even bother?
Yeah,
Just
that's
give
not the
up and
message
die,
I'm trying to
right? Because it's like,
Right.
well, no, that's not the case. God gave us we're wonderfully and fearfully made. He gave us amazing systems that were a defense system. So if you ingest things, your body, your cells do all these amazing things to detox things out naturally. We're detoxing all the time. That's how God made us, right? So, but when you start injecting things directly into your bloodstream,
and it's nano in size,
and it's nano, okay,
really
you're bypassing all of God's natural defense systems that he gave us. And you're also, the nano delivery is going through the cell, and the cell can't recognize it. The cell can't defend itself in any way, shape, or form. So this scientific monstrosity that they're doing is bypassing all of God's systems. So there is a difference if you've had the injections, and you've just lived in a dirty environment, like we all have, right? And you've bioaccumulated like all kinds of sensors and heavy metals and all kinds of stuff that's in the water and the air, versus if you've had all kinds of injections and you live underneath 5G towers and all these different things. So there's a huge difference. And what we're going to talk about soon is the upgrade, because just like, think about technology that doesn't work. You got your cell phone, you can't get a good signal, right? It doesn't work. They had many, many problems getting their technology to work the way they wanted it to work. So they needed to upgrade the entire
There's a reason
system.
why they had to force everyone to take the injection.
It's literally called the cyber physical backbone. And it's where they were connecting all of this technology and upgrading their entire wireless body area network. And they started doing it in 2017. They started upgrading all the infrastructures for their system. And the last and final stage of that was to graphenate the population in order to load balance their new hardware and get their system to work better. Because prior to that, it wasn't working. Their technology, their signal wasn't making it through. So they had to super saturate everything. And they've done that through COVID, right? They created the COVID thing so that everybody runs out and injects themselves with graphene and everything else in the kitchen sink that's in these things. But that's in order to strengthen and upgrade their system, which is leading us to the C40 15-minute cities, the ultimate for controlling humanity.
Before we jump into that, though, I did want to comment on, since you brought up the biosensors and the Wi-Fi and everything, recent articles in the mainstream have been discussing quite a bit about the technologies that are capable with Wi-Fi. This is Vice from a year ago. I think Vice is done, right? Didn't they fall apart,
dead.
Basil? Yeah. But they had the headline last year: scientists are getting eerily good at using Wi-Fi to quote unquote see people through walls in detail. This is straight up sort of telling us what the Wi-Fi system does. But going back to your slide here with the biosensors, you mentioned piezoelectricity or piezoelectric components. And that's always very interesting to me, because this paper that I found from a long time ago, this is on ScienceDirect.com. It's a
look of the year.
Wow.
Yeah, bioelectrochemistry and bioenergetics paper from December 1996. Headline is Piezoelectricity in the Human Pineal Gland. So if you didn't think that this had some kind of spiritual type of stuff going on, because I know it's new agey to talk about, the pineal gland is it's the seat of the soul. It connects to the other realm, and you can see God if you can tap into, if you could get, decalcify your pineal gland. And I know that it's sort of the new agey topic, but if we're talking about the scientists and the technocrats writing papers about, look at this piezoelectricity in the pineal gland, and that's part of how they monitor us. They're monitoring our pineal glands through piezoelectricity. I mean, it's just, it's so invasive. You're right. It's a complete invasion of all types of privacy from, it's even beyond what we can probably comprehend exactly. And it really does make sense as to, this is why society seems like it's falling apart, is because all types of governance and everything is completely obsolete, given this type of invasion into our, just everything, our communities and our biology. So, so anyway, this is just some things that my brain starts working when I see stuff that you guys present here. So we're on track. So
I love it.
15-minute cities.
Yeah, where we're getting there. This is just some more information about biosensors. There's 4 main components of a biosensor. And again, go to YouTube and type in biosensors, and you will find pages and pages of explainer videos from the industry that tells you what biosensors are. So if you're thinking they're not real, they don't exist, it's all right there. Okay, this is real, it exists.
I have to mention a trend though too. We're finding that the work that you see, especially on like a YouTube video, they look like they are graduate level courses. And a lot of these look like they're coming from, with respect to the United States, from overseas. I'd say the Far East. Very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, that could be part of the, I mean, in the geopolitical context, we've been talking a lot about the types of warfare that's been taking place in our country. I think it was 60 Minutes yesterday, as of this recording, or maybe Sunday, a couple days ago, they had a whole guy on that was part of the intelligence apparatus saying like, yeah, the whole Havana syndrome thing is real. There's electronic weapons being used against our top, military leaders, and
it's
they're
Russia.
suffering. It's Russia. It's Russia. But that's sort of the way that they get to be on 60 Minutes is they just bash Russia.
It's Russia.
But the greater point about our top military people or government people being targeted, and then the way he described it was, I think he said brain damage or brain. Was it brain damage? Was that the exact
talking
phrase?
about holes in the brain.
Something. I mean, it was
trauma,
pretty.
At least.
Yeah, it was a pretty a very descriptive word that he used. So anyway, that type of thing going on makes complete sense. And so there is an argument to be made by the I don't know, the controllers, or maybe the geopolitical context, the people that run up against or run into the true elite behind the scenes type of thing in the world. They could be given logic like, hey, you guys are losing this war. You need to weaponize your population. If you want to win this thing, the technology is reaching a certain point. You guys have to make this move. And that makes sense. You can convince Trump to roll out a vaccine if it means you're going to protect America. So right. I can see that being a greater operation to sort of dupe all these politicians into accepting stuff.
It's built into the philosophy of 5th generation warfare.
Right, exactly.
Is that civilian populations are the battlefield and they are the weapons. This is core to 5th generational warfare.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well said.
Yeah.
Continue.
Yeah. So this is just making up, showing like how the biosensors are made. There's an analyte. There's 4 main components of a biosensor. There's an analyte, which is a chemical or biological material that gives the electron reaction as it gets connected. Then there's a receptor, also known as the recognition layer, that binds to the target component. Then there's the transducer, which acts as an interface measuring the production that occurs with the bioreceptor and transforms energy into a measurement. And then there's the signal, which is the component that displays the information. Biosensors are used for analysis of living subjects remotely. They can use anything in your body, your blood. They can check for your blood, your glucose levels, your blood pressure, heartbeats. They can obtain sample, analyze, and transmit data. And they use your body's natural electricity energy to power itself and to send and receive data. So human bodies are nodes on the network. And speaking of that, our natural electricity, we're going to tell you about the biofield, which is what God gave us.
Okay, so the biofield, the human body is electrical and has an electromagnetic field. All the chemical reactions in your body are mediated by an electrical signal that goes through our systems. The biofield or biological field is a complex organizing energy field engaged in the generation, maintenance, and regulation of the biological homeodynamic systems. Now, this is from the NIH's website. That's their definition.
I was going to say, that's just kind of common medical knowledge now.
Yeah.
It's not the aura, New Age. It's a body part.
Yeah, that's how it was introduced.
Gons was saying, well, saying in response to what you said earlier, Gons, is what we find, because we had the similar thing when we were researching some things on free energy also, is we believe the New Age community is there to, almost like a gargoyle in its use, if you want to talk about 5th generation warfare, to head off things that are trends. things that are trending, things that are they're cutting edge.
Yeah.
But if you put that wrapper, that new age wrapper over it, kind of like the crazy hippie type wrapper over it, then the public's not supposed to look at that, or it's supposed to scoff at it and laugh at it.
They won't take you seriously.
They won't take you seriously.
Right.
Where indeed that is where everything is pointing to on these things. So
interesting.
That's how the adversary works. It's a game of counterfeit and narrative control as well. It makes total sense. But I think I don't even know why I pointed that out. I'm sure there's somebody out there who had a problem with that. But I think that's a good reminder that you're taking this from NIH. This is just basic sort of medical understanding of how the body works. We have electricity. If you want to test that, go ahead and get yourself a multimeter and hold each end of it, and you can see the electricity in your body right there.
Well, when you're in a hospital and they do an EEG, that's what they're measuring. They're measuring your body's electrical fields.
And
wasn't there a big paper that was declassified a couple of years? I remember it was a big paper that showed how the government or the CIA or whoever had been researching all kinds of this type of woo-woo stuff.
I think that was the Stargate papers.
Was that the Stargate papers? Okay, so, all right.
Well, actually, there's this might tie into that. So just start right here.
Okay, so knowledge of the biofield was removed from public teaching in Western medicine through the Flexner Report in 1910. It was then hidden in academia all these years and has been developed upon in the AI and biomedical engineering tech industry. So you had to be actually in the industry to even get some information on this. Technologies using the biofield have been deployed on the population without a person's knowledge or consent.
So basically, they hid from the general public that we have an electrical body field, and then they hijacked our electrical body field to use on their experiments and their technology.
And for communication with the Internet of Things.
That sounds like something they do.
Yeah, sounds about right. Right about the time of the bankers, too. They're like, hey, we got this. We need to fund it. Hey, Federal Reserve, 1913. There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, good one. Yeah.
They're also using that biofield. They're energy harvesting your body to run a terahertz network. So nanoscale wireless networks are expected to revolutionize a variety of domains with significant advances conceived in in-body healthcare. In healthcare, these nano networks will consist of energy harvesting nano devices passively flowing through the bloodstream, taking actions at certain locations and communicating results to more powerful body area network nodes. And that's coming from this paper below from ResearchGate towards location-aware in-body terahertz nano networks with energy harvesting. And terahertz is just a specific range of frequencies on the spectrum. And that is where most of this new emerging technology that's nanoscale, it's operating in the terahertz range.
Got it.
Yeah, that makes sense. I just pulled up, while you're talking, we're doing our own little research over here, and I just found it. You might even have this in there. I wouldn't be surprised. It is a NIH.gov paper that was published on November of 2015, Biofield Science and Healing, History, Terminology, and Concepts.
That's it.
And it says here that biofield science is an emerging field of study that aims to provide a scientific foundation for understanding the complex homeodynamic regulation of living systems. Then they talk about how it's described as energy medicine. This is NIH saying this is energy medicine, life as chemistry. And, all these, they got these terminology keywords: biofield, bioelectromagnetics, biological field, electromagnetic fields, energy medicine, healing. So, yeah, I mean, look, if anybody of your Christian friends are like, hey, you're being new age, just be like, no, we're just being NIH right here. We're spitting some Fauci type of level information.
One or the other, right?
Science.
Oh, yeah, maybe I should, here we go.
Science is truth.
There we go.
There it is.
Thank you, Fauci. Appreciate that. You're affirming our research.
Remember that.
Yeah, he's science. That's right.
So, there's a paper out there that's very telling. It's called "Turning the Human Body into a Wire." It's from the IEEE spectrum. So when the human body is the communication channel, it's hard to hack the data. Your body is a smart home.
Okay. So through research at Purdue University, we have developed a new method of communication that will keep medical devices, wearables, and any other device on or near the body more secure than they're using low-power wireless signals to communicate with one another. The system capitalizes on the human body's innate ability to conduct tiny, harmless electrical signals to turn the entire body into a wired communication channel. By turning the body into the network, we will make Internet of Body devices more secure. Using the body as the communication channel for the Internet of Body devices avoids the fundamental problem with radiative technologies like Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. This is doublespeak, by the way, by keeping the electrical signals under the skin. Because we've developed a system that is low loss at low frequencies, we can send information between devices using far less power. That was an article by a research team in 2020 by the IEEE Spectrum magazine.
So let me like translate that into like simpler terms. Everybody understands how Bluetooth works, right? You have a signal emitting and you have to find the signal. Well, that's not very secure. Hackers can hack that, right? Mm-hmm. So they can hack that Bluetooth signal. But what this body of work is doing here is it's saying that the human body, when you use the skin of the body, that field is much more secure than even Bluetooth. Hackers can't hack that. So they want human bodies as the nodes on their network that they're running because it's much more secure than the technology that they've had up to date.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I need to. Can I add something to that?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so that was the reason why they did this research, right? But then on the other end of that, this network that they're installing very much uses the Bluetooth protocol. Mm-hmm. It does.
Yeah.
Okay. In fact, this technology that they're using that uses the Bluetooth protocol, also Bluetooth is actually very secure because the frequency, it hops between frequencies. It does different frequency hops as it's transmitting data. And in order to know what frequency it's jumping on at any given moment in time, you need to have like the encryption key to do that. Mm-hmm. If you have a quantum computer, and if you have the keys to a quantum computer, good luck to anyone trying to crack that. So you can actually get away with transmitting something wirelessly.
Yeah, so that's one of the things, if I can jump in, the quantum, the research I've been doing with the quantum stuff, and this has sort of been known in you know, the bleeding edge of science for, you know, a few decades or whatever, but it's this idea that in the internet communication that we currently have, we send packets and the machine reads packets, but those packets are going away with quantum communications. And the way I heard, I have a clip that I have in Age of Deceit. I think I played it on one of the Canary Cry News Talk episodes maybe a few months ago. But it's one of these intelligence high-level guys talking about the one of the reports, the public reports from the intelligence community, and they mentioned the whole problem or this idea of a Q day coming up where somebody is going to have access to quantum computing and is going to start hacking everything that's in the traditional internet form. Mm-hmm, and so, and the technology behind the information packets traveling will be pretty much, you know, he called it teleporting because it goes from point A to point C. And then he said, there's a little science involved with point B. So it's this whole idea. And his whole thing was physical infrastructure, the places where the data centers are, that I think he didn't say this, but I think it includes human bodies and populations. Those are going to be what's important. Like that's the fortress that will protect this network type of thing. So it's not going to be so much intercepting on the path, you know, because that, again, that could be intercepted. If it was a wire, a physical wire, it's easy to tap into. When it's traveling through the quantum realm, it's kind of hard to hijack that communication unless you have the keys, you know.
Unless you have the keys.
Yeah, so
it'll just seem to appear. It would seem to appear in the person and disappear from the person.
Right, exactly. So it's all
also
woo-woo.
And what you're saying earlier, Basil, then you can tie this into things like central cryptocurrency or so forth, because then the people become the collateral for the new economy.
Right. Yeah.
It's not corn, it's not, you know, oil, it's people.
Yeah, which is funny because that's kind of already how it works in the United States with your birth certificate and your social security. You are collateral against future debt.
Yeah.
But, like the entire financial system needs to be upgraded. And why bother with social security cards that are printed on gas station toilet paper if you can just digitize and tokenize the soul of your civilians?
Yeah, there's a reason why the Ethereum unique NFT is called Soulbound.
Yeah.
They
Why
named
is
it
it?
Soulbound. Yeah,
No.
it's like, oh, this is your unique NFT that represents you on the Ethereum blockchain. Oh, great! What is it called? Soulbound. I don't know if I want that.
All right, so we are a wire.
Yes, the human
Great.
body is an excellent, very secure way of transmitting signals.
Love it.
So this is the Internet of Bodies, or IOB. You'll see these abbreviations. So the Internet of Bodies is a growing industry of devices that monitor the human body, collect health and other personal information, and transmit that data over the internet. Researchers who have been finding nanotechnology when they're looking at the blood under the microscope need to understand that there is an industry of people who work daily jobs that are regulating these nano networks. So this is what we talked about earlier. These are the biosensors and components that make up the wireless body area network and the Internet of Bodies. And they've been planning this for decades. Here's the World Economic Forum chiming in about the Internet of Bodies, tracking how our bodies work could change our lives. They're entertaining the era of the Internet of Bodies, collecting our physical data via a range of devices that can be implanted, swallowed, or worn. No, thank you. We're going to skip over this one. This is our slide just talking about the IEEE industry. It's really big. They have millions of papers.
Hundreds of thousands of members.
Right? Just in the interest of clipping off some time so that, because some people think that the IEEE is like a Reddit group.
No, yeah, we've covered stories from them forever. Yeah,
I think one of our
okay.
first episodes in 2012, we were jumping all over IEE articles. There was I forget his name, Frank something he was the one that said that we're basically nodes in a network and we're creating a global brain.
Yeah, they're sort of the source of a lot of the technocrat jargon.
Pelletier, Frank Pelletier, look him up. Yeah.
Wow.
Continue.
So we're going to bring in another example of a researcher that is actually pretty prolific in this industry. And when you go on and see his presentations on YouTube, they're normally in the form of a seminar or a graduate course. And they only got like maybe either 50 or 200 views or something. So it's very fascinating. But in these presentations is where he basically lays out the entire technology of what was put inside people in the last few years. And his name is Dr. Killbox.
I kill D's. That's how you say his name.
It's actually.
Wow.
I'm not even kidding.
You'll see.
Of course it is.
So he did this presentation called Metamaterials Terahertz Software Defined, and it's a suite of nanoscale technologies in the terahertz frequency range. Now, these technologies, he explains how these technologies that he was working on was put on hold to the commercial world by governments, even though they were developed. And we're going far back before 2010.
Wow.
They were released in 2017 as part of an infrastructure upgrade to the global information network, what Hope mentioned earlier, which would be further initiated 3 years later with the graphination of the population through the pandemic. So his name is Dr. Ian Aikildiz. Akyldiz.
He's like Senator
Palpatine.
Yeah.
If you want to look at the rank.
His name looks like a
the
Star
head of the
Wars
church
name.
He's
It's
been at this 30 years.
AKYILDIZ, in case anybody needs to do a Google search there. AKYILDIZ.
And if you're bopping around on the IEEE papers, the white papers, and you're looking into all this nanotechnology and the terahertz networks, you will find his name on all of them.
All over the place.
He's like, you need to know. He's like worse than Bill Gates, I would say. Like that's how I feel about this guy.
So he has he has another professor. Giuseppe Jornet, they work together on a lot of projects dealing with where to put the military spending, DoD or DARPA contract spending in universities to specific grants to further this research into the Internet of Things, Internet of Bodies, and what this came from Killde's Internet of Nano Things. That he termed that one. These materials are graphene based. He talks about graphene based technology. That's where his expertise is.
That's one of his inventions here.
Is a graphene chip that takes signals, and this is nanoscale, like a couple nanometers large, big. And it's a graphene chip that takes signals from like a cell tower, turns it into a surface wave to travel across the chip, and operates at that mode so that it can transmit signals to the local nano-based network. He also has another patent for a graphene MOSFET that is like so many times more efficient than the MOSFETs we're playing with. So it's very
interesting.
Wild stuff.
I had just talked about metamaterials on yesterday's news talk because I was looking at the eclipse situation, which I think when people listen to this, it might have already happened on April 8th, but there's lots of weird stuff going on. NASA's shooting rockets into the shadow of the eclipse. It's named after a serpent deity, Apep. And what they're allegedly doing, according to NASA and all the mainstream outlets, they're measuring the electric and magnetic fields during the eclipse. Like, all right, what's going on? And I brought up metamaterials because metamaterials is the stuff that's supposed to be used as an invisibility cloak. This is Wikipedia, and they talk about metamaterials being used to sort of shield its visibility almost. So I mean, these things can sit in our body and be invisible in a sense, unless you have the right type of reader, I guess.
Yeah, and to be clear, Guns, this episode should, if all goes well, come out before the eclipse.
Yeah.
So this is. Yeah, I think there is an interesting connection there with the NASA experiments and the CERN experiments, and it's all basically
ritual.
Yeah, it's all basically about sort of energy experimentation. They're talking about the electricity in the atmosphere, of course, whatever they got going on over at CERN. Just happens to be on the same historical dates, April 8th through April 10th, that Aleister Crowley, channeled AWAS or whatever his name was. Yeah.
The one that looks like an alien gray.
I'm sorry. I'm thinking another thing. Sorry.
You're thinking of Lamb.
Yeah.
No, AWAS was the being that dictated the Book of the Law to Aleister Crowley. So who knows? Maybe the Satanists will get a new Book of the Law.
Is that the same? I think AWAS is Lamb.
Doesn't matter. Could be. Let's keep moving.
Entities.
There he is. Yeah,
entities. They're all
entities.
They're all entities to me.
They're bald. They got big heads apparently, and
yeah.
These guys are not your friends.
Not your friends.
they're not your friends. They're telling Dr. Alkildes how to make the noose for mankind there. So
yeah, exactly.
And in this presentation, ironically, he actually puts in an aside near the end of the presentation where he says COVID is nothing but nanobots.
The COVID vaccines
is nothing
but bio-nano machines.
Nothing but bio-nano machines. He actually says it towards you, like he said.
And it's on YouTube, and they didn't take it off.
How is he still on YouTube? What's going on? How's he allowed to be out there? But we get shut down.
All of these materials, a lot of these materials, they're graphene based, which is a necessary part of the new technologies in order to get everything to work. And so when you think about EMF, all these technologies that we're showing you, all this nano stuff, they use EMF to control it.
Makes sense.
To write to it, to make it do things,
Maybe when you might have something on this later in the presentation. And if you do, I would love to get there. Klaus Schwab talked about the cyber pandemic, right? It's going to be bigger than the COVID crisis was just a small thing compared to the cyber pandemic.
Yeah.
Based on what's being built here, a cyber pandemic would just literally kill a bunch of people, wouldn't it?
Well,
It
a
would
quantum hack. It would be
it
a
would just,
quantum hack of the Internet of Bodies. That
I mean,
would be the
that's
ultimate.
exactly what it is.
Exactly.
In fact, in what the paper I'm reading now, this is for another, but in the paper that I'm reading now, they mention how because you hear these guys in the World Economic Forum, they'll say something like cybersecurity,
right.
but in the paper they'll say bio cybersecurity.
Right. Yeah.
And they do mention hack attacks. Like, okay, who's doing the hacking into other people's
Right.
bodies when the people who are being targeted don't even know they have traffic going through their body? They don't even know that.
Gang,
you're spot on, Basil.
Thank you. On the topic of all this EMF stuff, actually, I am looking at some meters that I have here. I need to go start a generator, so I will be right back. But you guys continue.
Yeah.
I'll be back in a minute or so.
Gotcha.
Awesome.
Sure.
Needs a break from that VR headset. I read a thing that said that the VR headset was just a tip of the spear of the
It's
whole
mind
infiltration
control.
there.
I'm actually being remote controlled by the CIA right now. All right, be right back.
Your nanobots are firing up. Okay, continue. Let's move on here. Let's
Keep talking to you
keep
guys.
moving.
This is awesome. All right, so we'll go through the next few slides really quickly. These are just examples of the Internet of Bodies. You can get that from RAND.org. These are all the wonderful technologies like sensors and digital pills.
Everyone is so excited to be having these things in them.
Infusion pumps and brain computer interfaces. So this is all the stuff that they're working on now, coming out with now. And also this is the new, so the IEEE biomedical engineers, these are the new doctors. So our current medical doctors, as we know them, are being phased out, and these guys are becoming the new doctors. They're calling it wireless healthcare, or graphene healthcare is another way of terming this again. So you'll see words like precision healthcare, designer drugging, electroceuticals, nanothermonostics, biomedical tissue engineering, and regenerative medicine. That all falls underneath the new medicine, the new doctors. And this is all, they've been working on it for a long time, but this is what they've deployed during the upgrade, right? So let's talk about the Medical Body Area Network, or the M-bands. They're networks of wireless sensors. They're often no bigger than a Band-Aid, which can transmit data on a patient's vital health indicators to their doctor or hospital. The FCC mandated the M-band in 2014. M-band is a subset of the wireless body area network, so it's part of that. The first use of M-bands will likely be in hospitals, but a longer-term application could be remote monitoring devices that allow doctors to check on patients at home. So that's where it gets tricky. How are they doing that? They are using the wireless body area network to pull information from the biosensors that are inside your body. Sometimes it might be a wearable, but it's a combination of in your body and wearables, right? The technology, the networks can potentially alert doctors to problems before the patient's condition becomes critical, thus avoiding the need for acute intervention. The technology has more laws allowing it to do whatever it wants to your body than you do. All the regulatory agencies have been very busy creating the legal structure for the WBAN, the M-band, the wireless drugging, and patient compliance for many years now. This is the reason why humans now have MAC addresses. It's for this network. We are all patients to the satanic medical system. It's all clearly states that this network follows you to your house, which is your Killbox. We'll get into that in a second. Wireless body area network software. So this is on the bottom screen here. This is a software called Omnet. This is how they log in and out of your body. They install this software onto their iPads that they use at the hospital, or the in-home nurses will take the iPads with them. They use the medical body area networks at the hospital and this software called Omnet to report data from human bodies up to the cloud. And this was seriously implemented in hospitals during COVID. The M-band technology will provide a flexible platform for the wireless networking of multiple body transmitters used for the purpose of measuring and recording physiological parameters and other patient information, or for performing diagnostic or therapeutic functions, primarily in healthcare facilities. This platform will enhance patient safety, care, and comfort by reducing the need to physically connect sensors to essential monitoring equipment by cables and wires.
Those pesky wires.
Those
wires get in the way. You just gotta do it all invisibly.
So this is this is coming from the FCC talking about the medical body area network. There is a huge presentation that's coming soon behind this whole concept, because they do have wireless drugging. They have the ability to walk by you with a cell phone, push a button on the cell phone, and put a drug in your body or release a payload in your body. So we've got the papers to back that up. There's more information coming forward with that. We just wanted to let you know that this is what is part of the wireless body area network, and the future of what they're doing. Yeah. Now, I wanted to piggyback off of this to basically get into the concept of a kill box.
Okay, so basically we're tying together what we know about remotely tracking or the surveillance society with what we've just talked about today. All right, so you have something called C40 Killbox cities and remote monitoring. Human activity recognition systems, how they track your every move while in your home using markers, surveillance, and radio frequency signal processing. From a non-stationary relay-based 3D MIMO channel model in time variant path. Okay, so
that's the name of the paper that
this is the paper. This is the paper that the first image is showing. And in this image, basically this person is walking around giving an electromagnetic signature from the waves that are around the home or from a remote station, sending waves all through the place. So let's say you have a 5G tower with I'm trying to think, what's it called? Beam focusing technology. Beamforming technology. Thank you. That can target a room. So now these waves are bouncing around in a room based on the way these waves hit your body while you're just doing your normal activity in that room, can determine certain information about the person that's in that room. It's just in line with what you showed earlier, Gons, with seeing all of a sudden it's this revelation that these things can see through walls. So this is basically what it's talking about. Extensive research showed that physiological responses of human tissue to exposure of low frequency electromagnetic fields is the induction of an electric current in the body segments. As a result, each segment of the human body behaves as a relay, which retransmits the radio frequency or RF signal. To investigate the impact of this phenomenon on the Doppler characteristics of the received RF signal, we introduce new three-dimensional non-stationary channel model to describe the propagation phenomenon taking place in an indoor environment. They have a way of being able to create a picture of it or information based on the data that comes back. Yeah. Here, the indoor space is equipped with a multiple input, multiple output MIMO system. A single person is moving in the indoor space and is modeled by a cluster of synchronized moving point scatterers, which behaves as relays. Those scatterers, by the way, would be like the 5G towers, all in your neighborhood.
Yeah. Well, before you move on, I just want to comment because this is
there's
so many things that's my brain is going to explode. But so
I love it.
The first thing, the idea of these new priests, we're creating a new class of scientific priests.
That's what's happening.
Yes.
And it makes a whole lot of sense why they discarded, threw under the bus, the old sort of class of doctors that made the medical profession, or took it to where it did before COVID. I think there's a pre-COVID, post-COVID medical world, at least in the sort of general population sense. And so it would make sense that they would bring about COVID. It's a medical emergency. It divides the entire scientific community. It undermines a lot of people that, because they're not keeping up with the technology or maybe the inside knowledge or whatever it is, they become obsolete. They're just kind of useless. They can spin off and do their own thing or whatever, but they're not useful to the whole system. So that makes a whole lot of sense. And I was kind of digging around some of the documentation as you were talking, as usual. And I did find the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission paper here, Medical Body Area Network's first report and order. And I went into it, and it says here in the introduction that they are, and this may be more technical, but I think it's sort of the idea here, the rollout. Yeah. So they say here that by this report and order and further notice of proposed rulemaking, we expand our Part 95 Med Radio rules to permit the development of new medical body area network M-band devices in the 2360 to 2400 megahertz band. So, I think they're rolling it out in stages, right? So there's different frequency bandwidths that they will eventually just cover everything, but they're doing it slowly. Portion of the band. The M-band technology will provide a flexible platform for the wireless networking of multiple body transmitters used for the purpose of measuring and recording physiological parameters and other patient information, or for performing diagnostic or therapeutic functions primarily in healthcare facilities. So as you said, it seems like there's a two-way communication thing going on. Just like you can send an email, they can probably send a dose of whatever is in the schedule for the client or whatever it is. So yeah, I mean it's becoming way more invasive. This is quite troubling.
The thing that bothers me is that your body's data is on a medical body area network that you don't have access to.
And you might even know you're on the network.
Yeah. That is troubling. Yeah. And it's interesting because we're on this precipice of and I talk a lot about Bitcoin in Age of Deceit 4 because it's the vehicle that allows sort of the mainstream adoption of a lot of this conversation, I think, especially coming from kind of fringier folks like us. But it's the idea of privacy. There is a libertarian sort of freedom-loving thing with the entire cryptocurrency movement. From its inception, it was a lot of anarchists who picked it up, and then it was libertarians, and now it's becoming mainstream. And but there is still this privacy, reshape the problems with our current centralized systems and all this type of stuff. And it's in this form of, hey, we're giving back your privacy, we're giving back control of your data and all this kind of stuff. But if there are networks hidden behind the network that we can't access, I mean, we're just opening the gates with that perceived new stuff that's giving us back our power and our privacy and all this stuff. So yeah, some things to think about.
It shows you that it's not true.
You're right. If the thing to get people sold into, let's say, investing in cryptocurrency like Bitcoin but it is secure. It's got 256-bit encryption.
Yeah.
And there's Star Trek quantum computing.
Yeah. And there are already articles out there of people saying that, hey, we're the Bitcoin crazies are either putting their DNA on the Bitcoin blockchain or storing their keys on their own DNA or trying to figure out ways to do that and stuff. So it's all moving in that direction. That's where I kind of draw the line with all that crypto stuff, even though there's some hedge elements. It's the double-edged sword of technology. But welcome back, Basil. You're still alive. You made it through the medical body area network scan.
Yeah, the station is still powered here. I see you guys made it 2 slides. It's
2 slides.
It's very impressive. I know when I walk back in the room and Gons is going off about cryptocurrency, I know you guys weren't going to make it very far.
No, it's very relevant to the discussion.
I'm sure it is.
It's
relevant to every discussion, apparently.
Well, it's becoming more invasive.
All right, where are we?
All right. So we're going to continue with this concept of the military term called Killbox. It's military strategy, a procedure used in warfare where a 3-dimensional area is set up to enable timely coordinated control, and facilitate rapid attacks. Effectively, they're using the M-band and W-band to turn your home into a kill box. The network is connected to an autonomous weapon system, that's what we're calling this infrastructure, where electronic warfare or various kinds can be carried out on patients. Oh, no, I mean civilians. Okay, for the ultimate control and extinction of the population. So this describes the basic in the battle space, like if you're going into a territory where you're going to go commit war or battle space. The C40 network is a set of major cities around the world that have committed to fighting climate change. That's an example, right?
Of course.
But what you see in the diagram is the life cycle. You have an operator given orders to determine the geographical location as the place where there's going to be warfare. It's broken up into a grid system. And so the Killbox is established. Assets are deployed to the Killbox to do the mission. And then the mission's done, and then it's given a designation, and then the Killbox is disassembled. And that's basically what's being defined here. We're saying that this kind of system can be deployed into neighborhoods, into 15-minute cities, using this infrastructure.
Right.
To me, it looks a lot like this. It
Right.
looks a lot like, the remote monitoring of humans
It's
in their
a
homes.
Full
But what's
spectrum
being-
dominance type of
Yes.
setup.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's it.
Just a background summary. There's important documentation that's come out from the government that you should know about. Pentagon directives, nanotech budget, and biodigital convergence executive orders.
Yes.
So there is a Pentagon directive that was updated in January of 2023, DoD Directive 3000.09, which means all systems are now go on the autonomous weapons system, which will be used on the public. And there is an entire artificial intelligence symposium that was done by the Department of Defense that goes into detail. It's basically AI is going to be running these autonomous weapon systems, and they want AI everywhere. Everybody's going to have AI. There's going to be programs for AI. Also, the president's 2023 budget requests nearly $2 billion for the National Nanotechnology Initiative, which is the largest amount ever requested for nanotechnology since its inception. And nanotechnology.gov has been around at least 20 years.
20 years at least.
They've been doing this research.
Yeah.
So
I believe we actually covered this DoD directive and the president's extravagant budget for what
Yeah.
would seemingly
Yeah.
be a sort of non-essential part of the government. But, what do I know? I'm not a technocrat.
we have clips of Joe's commentary.
This is not about freedom or personal choice. They all want to share their data.
Remember he whispered they all want to share their data?
He's always whispering.
He's all over this stuff. I'm sure he's gotten briefed on all
He
this
said the quiet thing out loud.
nanotechnology.
It's pretty funny.
Yeah.
An executive order in September of 2022 calls for advancing biotechnology and biomanufacturing innovation. This is what they're calling biodigital convergence. And they've used technology to create a prison system that has control over our bodies that's hooked up to an electric warfare system.
Yep. Agreed.
Also, you need to know about something called the WBAN, the COVID Wireless Body Area Network.
Okay, so there's a database in the wireless body area network for COVID. Humans were tracked and traced through COVID and the WBAN through something called a Project Salus, which is the Pentagon effort that provided predictive logistics tools for COVID-19 response to the command.
Okay, so there is an actual database,
Yeah.
and here's the paperwork from the NIH to back it up.
Yeah,
The
straight from the
intelligence-
National Library of Medicine here. An intelligence
Yeah.
and energy efficient wireless body area network to control coronavirus outbreak. Oh, great. Woo.
Also, the 5G cell towers have COVID
Oh,
written
I'm sure you've seen
on
The
the
labels.
inside.
The
You've seen-
labels
yeah,
inside.
Yeah, the labels.
video clip
Yeah,
of a guy taking part of one of the antennas
That's
to find
weird,
the
isn't
circuit,
it?
part of the circuit board that says COVID, because you normally find that next to the capacitor, C for capacitor or the.
Yeah, I
So-
know. When
COVID.
I was putting my solar system together, I
Oh.
opened it up and it had a label in there. It said Ebola, and I thought, that's-
Ebola,
Oh.
was that for the positive terminal?
yeah, exactly.
Like,
Connect the Ebola terminal to the COVID terminal, and everything's gonna work out fine.
And these are the standards where you will find all of the body area network. So this is IEEE 802.15.4 4
Yeah,
that deals with standards for communication with portable devices, including bodies.
Perfect.
And then there's also IEEE 802.15.6, and that deals with standards for interbody communication inside the body and then going out from the body.
Oh, good. You don't want them
So-
just building up in the body. God gave us two ends here, in one end, out the other. I'm glad they're keeping that in.
Well, that's why they got the
mind.
sewer surveillance going. You know,
Yeah.
we've been tracking the sewer surveillance for a couple of years, or a few years now.
This is an extremely helpful presentation you have put together here. I mean, it's kind of interesting because Gons and I have been so so impressed with what the Lord has done with our show, which is to put a lot of this kind of stuff on record in a historical timeline in,
Nice.
3 days a week, 3 hours per show, an impossible amount of content that you basically have gathered all up together and put in an extremely useful format here. So thank you for doing that.
Well, we appreciate you having us on the show once again, to be able to lay this all out.
This is great.
It's really important because it's very confusing information, and we're trying to just educate people because that is what's going to help empower people to defend themselves against this stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is the knowledge of it. So here's just a quick slide talking about biophotonics and optogenetics, because a lot of these wireless body area networks and all this technology is being run through optogenetics.
Okay, so we have the biophotonics, which is a field of biology and photonics that combines the interaction of light and biological materials. It's the science of that.
It's actually very common right now in biohacking. You get your red light, your red light lamp or whatever, and it's supposed to, I don't know, increase your testosterone or something like that. I mean, this has now become colloquial knowledge that different colors of light just interact with the cells in your body. Like the light doesn't even have to go inside your body in order to start activating, parts of your systems.
This is amazing what you're showing here.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a PNAS article that was published on July of 2016, and the headline is "Human High Intelligence is Involved in Spectral Redshift of Biophotonic Activities in the Brain."
There you go.
So
get your red light helmet going.
Yep.
That's wow. And what's interesting about this, again, it's a lot of people working in this research. It's a lot. I mean, like that was kind of small. There's only three main authors there, but some of these papers got like 5 or more. And you're thinking there's hundreds of thousands of paper. A lot of people are working in this area. They're just not coming out in alt media. And so it really tells you where society is heading. That you have so much. It's like almost like an orgy of evidence on Google Images and
it's
on
too
on
much.
the web.
It's too much
It's
evidence.
a flood of it, but it's not openly talked about as it should. And so,
it's almost impossible. It's so full spectrum. I mean, it literally is full spectrum dominance in the 5th generational warfare. And the spectrum is so large that one person can barely, focus down on every aspect of it. I like what you have here, the visible light communication. You've got some diagrams with street lights, the lights in offices, things like that, all being used for these different interactive purposes with our biology and our cyborg biology, I'm assuming.
Yeah, basically, I'll finish up. Basically, they have biological techniques to control the activity of neurons with light. That includes the ion channels in our cells, the pumps, and all the enzymes. They use the biosensors we talked about earlier to make changes to people's receptors. So by having these things, even if it's through bioaccumulation, over time, you become more sensitive to inputs, to light inputs. So that's why it's important that we boost our immune system naturally, and we come up with methods of detoxing these things from the body. We believe you can detox these things from the body because remember, even if it's something, they got some advanced technology that uses bacteria or fungus that's weaponized with these other sensors inside of it, it still has that living component, and you need to treat it like an infection, live a life of detox and so forth. So
right.
Yeah, I think it's a good moment to just remind everybody that's listening, and sometimes these things could be scary and hopeless, but
Yes.
we're able to kind of laugh and just not enjoy necessarily, but look at it with hope, because of the fact that the Bible talks about our incorruptible, immortal bodies, that we are sort of those who are saved, whose names are written in the book of life, the ledger of life. We are promised new bodies, just as Jesus rose from the dead and defeated death, and he holds the keys to death and Hades and all this. So it's very interesting in the context of encryption and all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
But one of the reasons why I took on the name Face Like the Sun was because there's a couple verses in the New Testament, Matthew 17 and Revelation, the first couple chapters where it talks about Jesus and his face was shining like the sun. But also in Exodus, I bring this up fairly often, but in Exodus 34, I believe, Moses goes up to the mountain. He gets the message from God. He's got the 10 Commandments and all this stuff. And when he comes down, his face is shining so much they have to put a veil on his face. It's like, man, we can't even look at you because you're glowing. And I think there's something. Doug Hamp was the one that told us. He wrote Corrupting the Image. We interviewed him, I don't know, years ago, probably 11 years ago at this point. And he had talked about how certain properties of DNA, where it's kind of like a glow-in-the-dark sticker where it absorbs light and it can emit light. And so when it talks about, I think in Isaiah, when the end times and the believers, they'll shine like the sun and all this kind of stuff, it's almost literal. It's like, wow, this might be a literal situation. And it makes sense in the context of restoration, because what we're doing here, all of this is a counterfeit. All of this is meant for nefarious reasons and all this stuff. But it makes sense that, God's intervention with that and restoration process in that is like, hey, let me show you what the real deal is, not all this technology that you guys have been building. So, yeah, just a reminder about the true hope behind all this, or underneath all this. Seemingly pretty scary stuff. So,
yeah, and also no weapon formed against us shall prosper.
Amen.
Including the nanotechnology weapons.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, and bearing the image of God, the bodies we do have incredible ways of preserving themselves.
Yes.
So there is no sort of doom and gloom about it, as long as we are recognizing and trusting and aligning with the image of God here.
Yeah. Got a paper here
from
Premier.
Phlegmy.
Yeah, Premier Research Lab, biophotons, humans are beings of light. So there you go.
There you go.
Beings of light, yeah. That's what the science is saying.
Oh, before you go on, I have to mention, we did there's a research paper that's out now also a couple of years ago. Someone did an experiment where they took different bodies, took people, put it inside an absolute dark room, and had a highly sensitive camera that was able to pick up the biophotons coming off of the bodies.
Right.
And,
yes.
And that was very fascinating. Another thing they found is that they were able, the bodies gave off a blue color when they were generally healthy, and when the person was sick or had an illness, they gave off like a red color.
Ooh, interesting.
Very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. They turned Republican. The Democrats, they're good. They turn Republican. Okay, sorry. It was a blue-red thing. I had to take advantage.
Anyway, so I'm just going to take us through this concept because, if you listen to all of the leaders in the industry, they give lots of these presentations and they clearly list all the obstacles that they come up with when they're trying to implement this technology. And this is just like a list of some of the things that they talk about, their problems are free space, signal absorption, interference, line of sight propagation, fading, Doppler effects, distance, energy consumption, coverage. These are the problems that they've had with the old system. Okay. So they needed to upgrade. And this is the paper here. It's cyber physical, as in cyber, computer, physical, as in your skin, backbone. New system infrastructure includes everything: 5G towers, satellites, metamaterials, fiber optics, etc. This is the industrial cyber physical systems, a backbone of the fourth industrial revolution. That's an IEEE paper right there. And it says just for some definitions, a cyber-physical system or intelligent system is a computer system in which a mechanism is controlled or monitored by computer-based algorithms. A backbone or a core network is a part of a computer network which interconnects networks, providing a path for the exchange of information between different LANs or subnetworks. The backbone can tie together diverse networks in the same building, in different buildings in a campus environment or over wide areas. And cyber-physical systems, or CPS, and the Internet of Things, IoT, are converging over time to include a common emphasis on hybrid systems of interacting digital, analog, physical, and human components from NIST. And then also just to define what load balancing is, again, all these technology terms, it's a term that means to test the ability to transmit signals over the new networks that they just installed. Okay. So this is in 2017. They started to deploy this new infrastructure. All the metamaterials came out from I Kill These at that time. That's when
the patents for it.
A lot of the 5G towers were going up. There's UN documents talking about the tons of satellites that they were putting up into space at that time. They were deploying and upgrading their network. And then they finished the upgrade by the graphination of the species. So basically, here is their upgrade. I spelled it out here. First, even with all the technology that they had developed up to this point, it wasn't good enough to do what they wanted it to do. So the upgrade was initiated in 2017 by installing all that infrastructure I just talked about, the cyber-physical backbone. Then after the infrastructure was deployed, they then graphinated the population through creating the pandemic, making people shelter in place, which is for better tracking and tracing abilities, and injected most of the world's population with graphene. They needed the graphene injected, which is a big difference between just bioaccumulation, as we were talking about earlier.
Yeah,
they needed it in people's bodies for the amplification of the signals over this network. So that brings us to step 4 of the upgrade. The new system with the graphinated population is now ready for the deployment of 15-minute C40 smart cities as a means to control the world's population. So that's the grand master plan that we've been able to deduce of what they've been doing here to try to control the population.
Yeah. I found the National Science Foundation version of this. It's the same. It looks like the same paper, basically. Cyber physical systems enabling a smart and connected world. Yeah, the U.S. National Science Foundation. And, they have these little images at the top of the header of the article here.
Drone, right?
Yeah, and the first one, it's like a little, green pasture, little couple hills. But there's an old man and a young girl and a dog, and everything has a Wi-Fi signal. The cars have a Wi-Fi signal. The old man's heart is emitting a Wi-Fi signal. The little girl,
wow.
But the artwork, the level of artwork, it reminds me of Jehovah's Witness pamphlets. Do you know what I'm talking about? Where it's kind of cartoony.
Yeah, it looks like a track.
The track, yeah. It's got that vibe.
Aren't you sold on that artwork?
I mean, it's just one of those things. You go, whoa, why? And then there was another one with some pretty horrific looking CGI images of a woman that's walking with an exoskeleton. Here it is. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that looks good. Hey, she looks happy. She's in a wheelchair and she's.
Is that a football stadium?
I don't know. Maybe. Yeah. I don't know what's going on. Everyone's cheering.
People, paraplegics having their wheelchair turn into an exoskeleton so they can play sports.
Yeah, it's their healing moment. Yeah, they get to celebrate the healing with the rest of the population there. Yeah. So, I mean, again, it's one of those issues where if you think that this is just all coming from some blog, it's not. It's coming straight from the U.S. National Science Foundation. So,
yep.
Yeah, this is where they're going. Here's just some, ideas of the smart cities. This one's a city in Jiangnan City, which is the world's largest construction site. The CCP is building it to be a 15-minute city. This is huge, this thing there. So they're building a lot of these cities where there's talk of FEMA camps.
So in that image, it's 4 million people from Beijing were being displaced or moved.
Wow.
Yeah, under a mixed system of both voluntary and coercive measures. That's what
It doesn't give you the breakdown of how many are voluntary.
In this city, every lamppost in the city will be equipped with facial recognition cameras. Every entrance and exit will have checkpoints placed on them. You know, your digital ID, right? So there's just some ideas of that city. I also put together this timeline to help people kind of see, you know, where we're at in this big plan, the globalist system upgrade timeline. So first, in the beginning, ye shall be as gods. That's the first lie recorded in history about transhumanism. And then they've been lying to you this whole time. So you got your biosensors were created in 1956. The wireless body area network came in 1995. In 2017 was the big system upgrade with the cyber physical backbone, the metamaterials. And then 2019 through 2022, the COVID deployment, the graphinated the population. And here we go into the future, which is the AI apocalypse, the UN Age of Global Enlightenment, UN 100-2045 agenda, 15-minute smart cities and controlling the population.
Sounds right to me.
Yeah. Yep.
And so we're in that in between time. And, you know, you had brought this up in one of your movies, Guns, about the restrainer being removed. And I just wanted to make sure people knew about this concept because I didn't understand it until just recently since the whole COVID thing happened. So many people believe that the COVID injections, by changing our DNA and causing us to no longer be human, but to be a cyborg transhuman entity, is what has caused the Holy Spirit, which is the restrainer, to be removed. And what we're left with is a society of people who are under dominion of the Antichrist. The Spirit no longer dwells within them, and their names have been stricken from the book of life. And here's just some references on the side here about, you know, the Bible verse that talks about the restrainer. And, you know, different biblical scholars are saying that it's probably the Holy Spirit. I personally believe that that's the case because I've seen in people that I know that have taken the knee to this new system that they're just not the same person that they were before. There's something in them that's just left. Is how I feel. You know?
Yeah, you know, this is an interesting part of the conversation, I think, because especially now, years later, with sort of the different areas of declassification, the further scientific proof and experiments and studies, and then proof of what so many people knew during and before the pandemic, but that so many people didn't know. And there is sort of an ongoing conversation going on about, oh, shoot, I was just trying to be a good person and do my job, and I did what I was supposed to do, and now I realize it's all become clear now that this is not the case. And of course, there's things ranging from vaccine injuries all the way to you know, people who skated any sort of injury but feel lied to and have been sort of disillusioned by society as a whole. You have sort of a mass ideation about the collapse of whatever control mechanism is going on now. And certainly a lot of Christians wondering, oh, geez, I was just doing what my pastor told me. I was just doing what made me a good person, and I got vaccinated and stuff like this. And, you know, it does warrant a conversation about the vaccine. What spiritual effect can it have? What spiritual effect does it have? Because can and does are two different things, of course. And, you know, you've got really a massive portion of the population who regret it and would take it back. And I think that there is, you know, a way through that conversation that doesn't necessarily relegate people to, you know, a pretty horrific spiritual fate.
I guess I'm a Nephilim now. Just go double down on evil because I took the vax.
Right.
Well, you're talking
whether
about
or
like
not, you know, either
Well,
way.
I personally believe in that the one that made our DNA is the one that can fix our DNA.
Right.
And I believe that for those that have remorse for taking the injections and they were just trying to do the right thing, it's like there are so many verses in the Bible, if you dig into it, where God makes us new, we're a new creation,
Mhm.
you know, but I think that what I'm not seeing is I'm not seeing repentance from people I know, right? So it's like if I believe if you truly get down on your knees and you repent and you say, I didn't know what I was doing, I'm sorry, God, fix my DNA, put me back in the book of life. I believe that God will do that. But
Right.
I'm not seeing people in my life, because when the shots came out, I told everybody, don't take it, it's
all of our-
poison, don't
Right.
do it.
All of our
And they
friends.
all ignored me and they said, I'm going to do whatever I want and you can't tell me what to do. And you know, there was all kinds of things. And then now here we are years out and everybody
Yeah.
just kind of gets really quiet and they don't really want to talk about it as,
The,
you know, the
silence.
dichotomy going on,
The silence
you know?
really is deafening, isn't it? It is.
Yeah,
It is interesting. You would think now, of course, there have been sort of personalities who have come out and said they regretted it. What's that gal's name? She was formerly on Fox. I forget, but she was vaccine injured, and she's been very open about totally regretting it. But I mean, you're right. I know a lot of people who got it. And the information is available and out there for anyone who wants to know, who wants to find it. And there is this kind of, you know, I don't know how to call it except for cowardice, is that there's sort of a cowering going on where I think they know. I can't imagine how they wouldn't know that they've made a mistake, but it's such a big mistake. And looking back, not just the mistake of receiving the medical experiment, but joining in to the mob.
Like the culture war.
Yeah.
If not.
Yeah.
If they did not participate in demonizing people, they certainly, you know, did not defend their
To help
friends.
defend,
You know, just really kept quiet. And it was, for a lot of people, it was a moment of cowardice. And I'm not using cowardice to say like, these people don't deserve anything. They're cowards. I'm not saying that. We all, as human beings, experience moments of cowardice where we know we should do something. We know we shouldn't do something. And for whatever reason, we know what's right and we just don't do it, you know, or the other way around. And it's really, I have a soft spot in my heart for cowards.
Yes.
Honestly, if I'm being completely honest, I have a very soft spot in my heart for these particular kinds of cowards, because of course you were scared. Of course you were pressured into it. Of course you didn't know what to believe. That's the whole point of the whole thing. And you fell for it, and it's unfortunate. But the answer to cowardice is not more cowardice. I will tell you that, probably speaking from experience. You know, you can make a mistake, but using the same logic, the same emotion, and the same thought process to try to skate by without recognizing a moment of cowardice is not very empowering and, not a good step towards whatever the rest of your life looks like, having to live with that. So I think I agree with you there. I think I think the Lord is able to do all the things. And if that includes repairing people's whatever it is, God's able to reverse it in one way or another.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think there's a good example in Ezekiel 9, because I know we're talking about this in sort of the grandeur context of image of the beast, mark of the beast, revelation type of stuff. But in Ezekiel 9, which when I was first saved, I've told this story before, when I was first saved and baptized, this is like 2007, I think. I had a very, very vivid dream where this kind of old glowy man, he got I just remember him being so vivid. Didn't say anything to me. He was just standing in front of me. We were out in some weird desert in my dream. And I was just given two verses. It was Ezekiel 2:9, Ezekiel 9:2. Both have to do with this ink pen thing with Ezekiel. And Ezekiel 9 specifically is a very interesting chapter because it's almost as if it's the entire mark of the beast thing play out in reverse. So there's 6 men that show up. They're sort of the ones that slaughter everybody in Israel because of the abominations going on. And it says here from verse 3, then the glory of God of Israel rose from above the cherubim where it had been and moved the threshold of the temple. And he called to the man clothed in linen who had a writing kit at his side. So it was all about this writing kit. And then verse 4, go throughout the city of Jerusalem, said the Lord, and put a mark on the foreheads of the men sighing and groaning over all the abominations committed there. So there's this lamenting going on about what's happening. And they are marked with the seal of God, and they are protected. Yeah. The 6 men later go on to slaughter everybody, even the children in that area. So it's this judgment moment. And so I do think that it's a model for, people like us. There is a mourning. I remember, and I've gone through this type of, not this specific information that you're bringing today, but the process of learning about this stuff, it can be very troubling, and it can be very weighty. And, when you connect with that, I've had many moments where I just break down, I'm not on air necessarily, but just reading something or hearing about something and just seeing the weight of how heavy evil is, how palpable it is, and how so many people are blind and they just get, and, goes into the conversation about Basil and the coward thing. It's not that, they're so evil and they're so lame because they're cowards. It's more of a, wow, the powers that be are very powerful, and they're able to manipulate people. And wow, did we watch it? Did we see it play out? And I think we should have a little bit more, I don't know, sympathy is the right word, but just open arms for those people who are seeing it, recognizing it, and maybe lead them through finding a little more hope on the other side, because that's what this is all about. It's not just about exposing all the evil. It's really telling everybody that there is a greater hope here, and it's the truth. It's the truth, the life. So,
and a big part of that is, as somebody on this side, as we are here, somehow letting them know that it's okay. It's okay to talk about it. It's okay.
Yes.
You're not, make or be a safe space for people to work through the sort of cowardly feelings. Probably don't call them a coward to their face. That might be a great place to start. But I think
probably not showing yourself to be friendly when you do that.
Yeah. I mean, we are the key to allowing people to find some sort of redemption and repentance and reconciliation as far as that goes. But it is also not all on us. There does definitely need to be some responsibility taken. So
it seems like it's splitting everybody up. That's the agenda at the greater level, the social engineers. So
they would prefer that we keep everybody split up. Okay, I'm seeing.
We're trying to inform everyone the best we can, because this is a big gulf to bridge.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I'm seeing you've got a great landing pad here. Yeah.
It is a great landing pad.
Yeah, we're going to round this out. We're almost done. Thanks for hanging in there with us, because this is something that I've been wanting to present for a while.
Interesting things with technology in the Bible.
These are just some concepts. So, like the ephod, the Ark of the Covenant, and radiation. Okay, because we're going to talk a little bit about our products towards the end here. But so in talking with God, the radioactive Ark of the Testimony, the author explores several key biblical terms and items associated with the Ark that have either been mistranslated or not clearly understood over time. Many Old Testament laws were designed to protect the Israelite priests and people from radioactivity emanating from a cloud through which the Lord spoke when it descended into the Ark. People died or became ill if they came too near or touched the Ark. Thus, the incense, uniforms of the priests, the sacrifices, and strict safety regulations were all designed to protect priests, people, animals, buildings, clothing, and the environment from the radioactive danger emanating from the cloud. So these are some of the
it's interesting stuff.
It's really, Exodus describes the Ark of the Covenant as a vehicle for Yahweh to communicate with Moses. As a vehicle for Yahweh, we know this about the Ark of the Covenant. Yahweh is a talking cloud of energy on Mount Sinai. Yahweh is also a cloud of energy between the golden angels on the ark lid. Moses and others can hear this cloud talk to him. This cloud of energy can light up the room. This cloud of energy can zap people with energy and cause skin problems.
At a distance.
This cloud of energy can zap people and kill them. The ark can levitate and fly through the air. The ark can part rivers and make the thick city walls fall down. The ark is a power and will of Yahweh, the power and will of Yahweh the Lord. So this is obviously some form of advanced, natural, angelic, godly technology that we don't understand yet, right? But there's symptoms we can look at. So with that, also I'm looking into the ark. Now, we told you that we do Tesla-based free energy machines. So this is a spark gap. I don't know if you know. Could you describe what a spark gap does
It's just a junction where you got two high voltage opposite polarity and the spark jumps across it.
Yeah, it's how you fry your fingers when you're putting together a solar panel.
Yeah. The other thing that spark gaps do is that creates a portal for where a portal is a bad word, but a space in time where you can pull in multiple frequencies from the atmosphere into a machine through the spark gap. That's one of the
very good
major. Thank you. I try. I'm not the engineer. He is. But that was one of the major tenets of our device that we were building. Is to use spark gaps to do that, to pull multiple frequencies from the air. So I'm looking at all these pictures of the ark, and they look like a spark gap to me.
Right.
And then there's also
the
an
wings
article,
of the cherubim reaching out towards each other, but having a space in between them.
Right.
And that's where the cloud of God is supposed to be. There's also an article written called "The Engineer Who Said the Ark of the Covenant Was a Giant Capacitor." Frederick Rogers, the dean of the Department of Engineering at the Lewis Institute of Technology, conducted a careful study of the construction of the ark as described in the Bible and concluded that its design matched a perfectly constructed, simple electric condenser.
Yeah.
So there's some interesting stuff about the ark.
And even historically, I mean, it's not a big leap to say that this rudimentary technology would have existed. I mean, they're finding clay pot batteries from
there you go.
Around that time and even before, I believe.
Yes.
And they have voltage. They still put the voltmeter across those corroding electrodes and they still have a voltage.
Yeah,
So
it's incredible.
That's right.
The energy coming from the ark was radioactive in some way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which could also be similar to electromagnetic frequencies, certain frequencies that are bad for human health, right? So God instructed, he said that you had to make this ephod, protective clothing from radiation, maybe,
Levites,
Right.
So I put a couple of pictures here side by side showing the Levites carrying the ark and showing some guys in radioactive suits carrying a radioactive thing. The materials used in the ark's construction could be said to stop radiation. Whoever possesses the ark is triumphant in battle. But when the Philistines stole the ark and paraded it open in their city, people died with what looks like radiation poisoning.
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah, so really interesting stuff. Now, here's the ephod. God gave explicit instructions on how to make this protective garment. A blend of different stones and crystals were to be combined with metals like gold and different layers of fabrics, cottons, and linens. It was instructed to use the garment to cover the heart and vital organs. Words or names of the tribes were engraved on the stones, and different colors were instructed to be used, such as blue. And there were sound vibrational bells on the hems so that he will not die when the bells are heard ringing. Right? Mm-hmm. These are all the different verses that describe the ephod, the whole outfit. It was more than just the breastplate. It was like all of this protective clothing.
Yeah, very specific. Very
right. And you look at this apron, and I think of aprons, the lead aprons that they put on you at the dentist, right, to protect you from the X-rays.
Right.
And also the ephod stones. So me and my husband, we were given instructions by God on how to create our products for EMF protection as a form of natural technology that can be used to protect humans from the harmful effects of EMF that is used to operate emerging technologies. So this was before I discovered the ephod, because you were researching orgone energy when you basically put together layers of metal and non-metal.
Yeah, powders. So I was doing in powders, making composites.
right? So here's just an example of some of these composites, and that how there's these different metals and.
But that's not ours, by the
films.
way. But that's just examples of.
Yeah,
Just because it looks like a picture.
I've definitely
really-
seen these things before, things along these lines. Usually I'm
Yeah.
seeing them at some sort of maybe street fair or
Mhm.
crystal store or something. Generally, it's sort of associated with people who are, I don't know, putting copper spirals in their gardens and stuff like
Right.
that.
Yeah.
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 What's the name of that again?
What, electroculture?
Electroculture.
Electroculture, right.
Which
yeah.
is really interesting. We're looking into because we have gardens here,
Yeah.
and we use our Oregon devices for our gardens, and we're able to grow a bounty of food in a desert climate because of
Yeah,
it. It's
hey.
really,
Right.
it's really great stuff. But this is how we make our products by hand. We mix shungite, iron oxide, steel, brass, and quartz crystal in powder form into an epoxy resin. When the epoxy cures into a solid plastic state, it puts pressure on the surface area of the ingredients. This causes something known as the piezoelectric effect, which emits a harmonizing field generated by the specific properties of the ingredients. It is this field that transforms the harmful energy from EMFs into healthy, life-preserving energy. And so we've got, let's see what we got here. This is just a comparison about the stuff that we make to fight their bad technology
Yeah, that we
with
talked about
good
today.
natural technology.
Yeah.
And these are the areas where their bad technology operates in the same areas as ours does.
The
Piezoelectric.
same medium type of
The
stuff.
Yes.
same
right?
medium,
Yeah.
right? Like piezoelectric, backscatter. Ours, we have surface area,
Yes.
right? And the morphogenetic fields.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've of course, being in the line of work that I'm in, have come in contact with a lot of this kind of stuff. Actually, it's kind of interesting. Recently, when I'm just poking around on social media, on Instagram or whatever, kind of funny. The algorithms must have known what's coming or something, because I got a large influx in some piezoelectric products people were showing off, and shungite. One of the ones that I was like, that's actually kind of cool, was I don't know how much it would have weighed, but gigantic balls of shungite. I mean, the size of my fist and even bigger, in this sort of like big monk-looking necklace type thing. But I'm like, holy smokes, if shungite really does what they're saying it does, that's about as much shungite as you can apply to one person's body. And the correct me if I'm wrong. So the one thing that at first I didn't quite understand is that you have well, let's just talk about the ephod. So the ephod is a like 1 foot by 1 foot square on the chest of the priest, the Levite.
Mhm.
And if it were to protect somebody from energy, I'd be like, okay, it looks like that 1 by 1 foot square is protecting the guy, but what about his face and his loins? And, the idea, mainly because I just don't know how any of this works. So I don't know if it's a direct line of sight contact of radioactive whatever, or if, the claim that I've seen is that even just having a small item on or near you kind of, I don't know, sucks all the electricity or whatever into it. It's kind of affecting the near atmosphere. How exactly is that supposed to work?
So, so the different elements that you turn into a powder have all these properties. So there's some research done on certain copper alloys that have a field effect around them, like like a couple of inches. That's how far the effect is, where they're antibacterial in nature.
Yes, I know
there's
this.
a particular researcher that's looked into that, where you can use with the pure copper, like there's research done dealing with early pandemics or epidemics that came out in the early 20th century, where I think it was the flu. One of them was the Spanish flu, where certain areas where people were they were ill, and the only people that weren't ill in this particular region, this town, were the brass band. And then the brass band, that they're always with their instruments with the copper and brass, and they were always around it. They never got ill.
Interesting.
There's some
Okay.
tests with having putting bacteria cultures on steel, on like steel metal, and then on this copper alloy metal. And the steel metal, the bacteria cultures are still persisted. They were still there alive.
Right.
But on copper, they die. They die on contact.
That's interesting. I knew that copper had antibacterial properties. I guess I kind of assumed that it was more of a chemical antibacterial reaction or something like that. But you're saying it is this field.
It's energetic. It's even so. You can wear it, or the effect of killing the bacteria went from a distance, a couple of centimeters from the actual sample piece.
So it's sort of using whatever ambient. Now we're saying things like energy and whatever, but really we all know there's ambient electricity. There's electricity in the air around us wherever we are. There's cosmic rays blasting through our houses all the time. There's these sort of quantum-sized things going around us that we don't really understand. You can pull electricity not just from a potato but also from the air. I have talked about this in our early podcasts because I got a Nikola Tesla book and was building some of these things myself. There's just the ambient stuff. So it's not that the copper has some sort of magical hippie energy that it's emitting. It's just there's some sort of EMF mechanics going on around it. Is that the case?
Yeah, like shungite, for example. It's a very rare mineral that's only found in one place in the world, and that's in Karelia, Russia. And some people say that it might be a meteorite, and that's why it's only there. But it has these like buckyball structures and fullerenes. And basically what it does is it takes nuclear reactive waste and radio waves and things, and it pulls it inside of itself, and it basically makes it disappear. It cleans up nuclear waste,
disperses it,
and it also changes the spin, right?
Changes the spin of electromagnetic fields. That's why shungite is such a big deal. Those elite places that they go to for resorts, like in Sochi or in Davos, they have these they call them meditation rooms, but they're de-stressed rooms because you go in these resorts over there with the swimming pools and the hot baths, and they got these rooms where it's all like they got like these wooden benches, but the walls, the ceiling, the floor is all painted in either shungite, like a shungite wall, or it's all stoned, clad in shungite.
Yes, I've seen this. Yeah,
and it's basically a Faraday cage. And what it's doing is either the fields don't go through, they don't probably even make it into the room, but if they do make it into the room, shungite has a natural ability of changing the physical property of that electromagnetic wave so that the energy is not toxic to the body. Electromagnetic fields in general are naturally, in our technology, are naturally toxic. They causes inflammation in the body just by default. So if you've taken the injection, it's many-fold amplified.
Yeah.
So it puts your body under constant stress. These materials, by having it on you or around you, absorb some of these fields, but transforms most of them. So it's not like they're generating energy on its own, but they create a region around them where the fields in your environment is transformed. And we're all living in an environment where we were introduced to electromagnetic technology over the last 150 years. But before that, we weren't living in these high frequencies. But now we're all bathed to it. We're insensitive to it. And our cells at the cellular level, they're being triggered constantly by these fields that are going through our bodies a billion times a second,
And the reason why we use quartz crystal in our products is not because of new age crystal stuff. It's because crystals have the piezoelectric effect. That's why they use crystals in computers and watches. That's what creates that piezoelectric effect that we want, which then emanates the properties of all the other ingredients through the orgone fields into the environment around you, around your body. So that's kind of like how the products work. We have 7 years of videos and information that talks about the science behind our stuff and how it works and why it works and how to measure the effects of it and everything. Because this has been a fascinating study for us. We needed this for ourselves. My husband was very skeptical when he first tried it because my mom gave him a present because he couldn't sleep.
Yeah, I was really bad insomnia. I mean, I went days without hitting REM sleep. It was just terrible.
That's horrible. I know how that is.
Anything to stop to let me sleep, so.
Well, this is kind of part of the fun because I kind of get obsessed about this kind of stuff too. I mentioned I built a few things from the Tesla book, and that was fun.
The Tesla thing's not easy. I mean, you get shocked quite a bit if you're not careful.
Yeah, yeah, no kidding. It's the whole thing. And I was young and dumb and not afraid. And yes, some of that stuff was really amazing. I mean, the Tesla coil itself is just kind of a really cool, fun toy. But then, there's also catching cosmic rays. There's like several different things that he had going on. But that's to say that I actually think everybody should, but I enjoy very much doing some of these experiments myself. I mean, my goodness, when Flat Earth came back into vogue and that whole thing started flaring up, I'm like, I don't know, okay, I can't really do a lot of the tests people are looking for, but one of the ones that really got me was the moonshine temperature versus moonshade temperature.
Not the drink, not the
alcoholic beverage.
Yeah.
The moonlight versus moonshade temperature experiment, folks. Go grab a laser temperature gauge. What do they call it? Thermometer. A laser thermometer yourself. Go do this experiment yourself. Tell me what happens. What is colder, moonlight or moonshade? Just throwing it out there. I can't deal with it anymore.
You've been screaming about that for 10 years.
It would be fun if if there was ways to actually test this kind of stuff. I mean, I got some little electroculture things in my house plants. Now, the problem is my house plants are doomed to die no matter what because I am their father, and that's just what's going to happen. But, I mean, I can't say that I haven't noticed some sort of a difference. So I think it would be really interesting to kind of be able to get some of these types of products and test them out.
Yeah,
we also encourage people to make them themselves if they can. We have a video on our site on how we make ours. It's not a secret formula.
Right.
Just if you'd like to purchase from us, you're supporting a small business. We support the community around us here with our business, and it's the convenience of having us do it for you, and you don't have to go through and make all the expensive mistakes because we had to make a lot of mistakes in the beginning where the resin wasn't curing the right way and all kinds of problems were happening.
That kind
of course.
So
if
we can go back to the slideshow for one more second because I can just show you guys the last slide there where it talks about, this is just the science on our website if you have any questions, but these are our products. We've got things with sleeping pods, and we use these for a good night's sleep. This cured my insomnia. You put it under your pillow or next to your bed, and it creates that feel.
Instead of taking sleeping pills.
Yeah. And
but
also
the pills are so yummy, though.
Charge plates. So all of these are that same composite that we were talking about. They're just in different shapes. So we've got charge plates, and we like to use these. You can put them in your refrigerator because they help to preserve the life of your food. So it'll make your fruits and vegetables last longer. Like for me, especially if you got organic food and you want to keep that because it's expensive, right? So that really helps with that. Also,
another easy experiment for people to do at home.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Do that. You can also put, there's a whole body of research about structured water when you restructure the molecules of water by using energy fields in that. So you can set a pitcher of water on top of one of the charge plates, which the field that goes through the water helps to structure that water, which makes it cleaner and healthier for you to drink to help you detox your body.
It actually changes the way the water freezes. You can see the elongation of air air bubble filaments.
There's something
Yeah,
called the
okay.
ice test. You can
It's
freeze it
fascinating.
in the freezer, and the field that emanates from the plate gets frozen in the ice, so you can see it.
Yes.
If you are going to do the
yes.
test, do the control first with no plate in the freezer, then do the test with the plate in there.
Oh, yeah, 'cause
there's-
it's like a
there's a memory.
field.
There's a
Right.
memory effect if you
Yeah,
leave it in there.
The doctor, what is it?
interesting.
Emoto? What is
That's
it?
what it
The,
is. Emoto.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Talking
Yeah,
about other experiments that I did, Dr. Emoto based thing. He did the challenge was
water. Yeah.
the
Different
words,
music.
right? The
I
kind
think it was
words.
music and words and different.
I think he did the
atmospheres.
kind
Yes.
words or the mean words. And for some reason, maybe he suggested this or maybe he did it or something, but somebody said test it out on plants. So it was right when I was getting out of college. I owned one houseplant, and it was dying, just like every houseplant ever will, disappoint me and go away forever. And I
Traumatized,
I feel
clearly.
your pain.
and I
house plants in my day.
I printed out a big sheet, or just a regular sheet, piece of paper with a bunch of nice words all over it, and taped it to the side of the thing. And I have pictures of it somewhere. It was out of control. It got unmanageable how fast this plant was growing and how big and beefy it was. So just, the fun part is doing these experiments yourself,
Yes,
folks, and
yeah.
seeing if it works.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for us, it's just, like I really swear by my sleeping pods, because there's been plenty of nights where I forgot the sleeping pod and it's not there anymore. And I realize I can't fall asleep
Or if we
again.
travel to like an Airbnb and
Or if we're traveling
forget
and I
to
forget
bring
it.
to bring it. So it's like this really does work. This really does work for me. And a lot of people have said the same thing. We have a lot of testimonies on our site as well about what customers are saying. We have these phone shields also, which you can stick on your phones. You can stick them on the backs of your laptops, your iPads, just to get that orgone EMF protection all over your phones and routers. We have pendants, of course, as well. We have lots of pendants in different colors. And then somebody went through an airport, a TSA
Yes, that was
screener
interesting.
once at an airport with wearing one of our
the
pendants.
emails we get are
And the husband was skeptical, right? So she's like, just wear the pendant. So he put the pendant on and he goes through the scanner at the airport, and the guy calls him over and says, "What do you have on your neck?" And he showed him how it's like lighting up on the screen
Whoa.
at
It's
the
like-
airport.
wow.
it's like
the
from
field was
his upper torso covering his head was all
Whoa.
Wow.
That's a
Yeah.
fun one. Okay, I
was
can do
like the
that
most
one. Let's
amazing
test that out.
testimony that we got. So she's like, he's no longer skeptical. You know?
Yeah, you can
I'll
write
test that one
messages.
out.
Yeah,
That
write
sounds
messages
cool.
to the X-ray guys. Like,
Yeah.
hey, we know
Yeah.
what you're doing, X-ray
see
man,
you.
or whatever.
And so we have pyramids with garden pucks. Now, the reason why we make it in a pyramid shape is not because it's a salute to the sun god Ra or anything like that.
Okay.
Because there's actual scientific studies that are done showing that the geometry of a pyramid actually helps to direct the energy through the tip of the pyramid.
that's right.
So we create these pyramid shapes so that we can you can put these around your property to create a dome of protection over your house, over your fields. We have people that buy sets of these things to protect their livestock and their crops.
Interesting.
You know,
Hey, Basil,
I like domes. Domes are fun.
a few episodes ago, I was screaming about giant plants with Russian pyramids. Do you remember when I said that?
Yes.
And you were like, I have no
Yes.
idea what you're talking about. That's what I was talking about.
You know,
That's
it's a really
we have that in our presentation, Gons, in our scientific 4-part presentation. The one was about the pyramids by Professor Golad.
Golad, Alexander Golad. Yeah.
Guys,
And, yeah.
You know, the real fun part about what just happened is the second you started talking, my thing started lagging and I have no idea what you said. So
Oh, good.
I'm
Perfect.
just going to say the spirit maybe is protecting me with a special protective dome around whatever nonsense you were trying to spit at me there.
The nonsense. Yeah. Well, it is interesting that according to some reports, those Russian pyramids were 144 feet high. It's always weird how
Wow.
those numbers add up, in feet, because it's,
That's how it
feet
always
is
happens.
kind of a
How it's always
more of a
happens.
modern thing. But
Yeah.
I was always curious about that, because those are the types of things I've wanted to try, is to try to grow humongous fruit, with a pyramid or something. So that's kind of the stuff that I am interested in and curious about. Especially there's certain plants, my wife likes gardening and stuff, and she's always complaining that certain plants she can't get to grow. And so some of it, we've messed around a little bit, not all new agey or anything, but just in terms of placement and things of that nature.
See, that's the fun though, Gons. I think maybe that's why we are the way that we are, because we do know the adversary loves to counterfeit. We do know that they love to control narratives. They love to, very similar to what happened with certain medical products a couple years ago, controlling the narrative, misinformation, disinformation, censorship, but also infiltration of groups and steering of narratives and all this kind of stuff. So, it's kind of in our blood, Guns, to want to actually test things. We don't, of course, the ideas behind things. We're not trying to, I don't know, like you said, summon Ra or something. But if there's some sort of test that can be led by the Lord to see if I can really.
We don't have it as one. I'm sorry, we don't have it as one of the slides here, but there was a study that where a scientific team went to the pyramids of Giza and saw all kinds of electromagnetic fields around. You might be aware of that.
Oh, yeah, I'm definitely familiar with that. I mean, especially if the missing gold cap on that sucker, that could have really given you a good suntan if it wanted to. Yeah, well, this is very interesting. And to be fair, I'm kind of trying to make sure that everybody feels heard and seen who's listening to this episode. To be fair, I know some wonderful church ladies, some wonderful men and women of God who are talking about this kind of thing. And I never really gave it much thought, of course, but I would love, I think I got my new pastime coming up. As soon as I get whatever free energy device I can learn from your off-grid academy or whatever, when I got that going, next up, we'll see if I can disrupt some EMF fields, baby.
Yeah, I've wanted to do that. I've been playing around with magnets, and I remember my wife walked in on me one time.
Playing around with a magnet.
I was playing around with magnets.
No.
I had like a plate, and I had these magnets. She's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I don't know, but I feel that it's important, but I don't know what I'm doing. But I'm
doing the Lord's work.
Like this is something that I'm supposed to figure out." And yeah, I've had friends send me ways to make certain like energy things using like unused CDs and stuff. I don't know if you've seen this, Basil, but you can make like sun panels and you can do all kinds of stuff. I mean, there's stuff out there. It's just a matter of time.
The thing I love about it is that, these principles are either being hidden or discredited, especially to Christians. That's sort of the main point of the cope here we're trying to make it through at the end. But, these natural physical principles are going on around us all the time. We are warned not to touch or think about them or believe that they're there, both by, certain elements within the church and by certain elements outside the church. From both sides, we're being told not to, think about the electro fields that are surrounding us at all times. And of course, I read the book back in the day, The Electric Universe.
Oh, me too.
Wallace Thornhill, David Talbot, some very credible information about how, everything in the universe is electrical in a way. And so it's just how reality works. And, I think, so what was I saying here? I'm trying to make everybody feel seen and heard. Yes, we're told to be skeptical. And indeed, as always, we should be skeptical, which is why I'm suggesting some pretty easy peasy experiments to do at home. I will be doing them. And on the other side, maybe that crazy church lady with the EMF pendant wasn't so crazy after all. I think I might owe somebody an apology, perhaps. We'll see how the
You
experiments
yelled at
go.
the old lady at the church for having like a little crystal ball or something?
I didn't yell at anybody.
Oh, okay.
I secretly guided her towards the ways of God and not those of demons, Cons.
Okay. Just making sure.
You
It
want to know
sounded like
something
you were
funny? We get emails sometimes from Christians that they're like, "You're using crystals, and
Right.
that's witchcraft,
Yeah.
right?" And I'm like, and they're typing it on their phone
On their crystal
Yeah,
display.
crystal display.
to work.
That's true. Yeah. There is a built-in hypocrisy with everything we're doing.
That
here.
is hilarious.
Yeah.
Okay, well, since I have you guys here, where should I start? Which would you suggest? The sleeping thing sounds good. I notoriously have sleep issues, and I've
It's our
lost
number
my
one
page.
bestseller.
Is that the
Sleeping Pod.
thing? Okay.
Yeah.
Where do I go to check this out? There's not
Well, you
even.
you guys are getting some. I sent you a tracking number.
Oh,
that's right.
doggone.
Yep.
Yeah.
Some stuff.
It's way to you.
Here we go.
We love helping people. So you guys just sit tight. It should be there in a couple of days, and you'll be able to. We gave you all kinds of stuff, so you can try them out for yourselves.
I
sister.
always wear them. Oh, go ahead. Yeah, I always wear the pendant. I have it on me 24/7.
Yeah. That's
pendants.
yeah. I mean, it seems like if it works, it seems like something you'd want on all the time. I mean, I'm pretty much as far away from the sort of societal ambient attacks of the electromagnetic spectrum, but it is just impossible to avoid, especially, if you got Wi-Fi in the house and stuff like that. Even being around a running generator has its own kind of crazy field, and that I can even feel when I'm turning it on, turning it off.
Yeah.
So I guess in general, the idea behind these suite of products that we made initially for ourselves is to, if we know that the contaminants in our environment are making us more sensitive to electromagnetic fields, you want to reduce that sensitivity to having a clean diet, detoxing your body from these contaminants that your body can do. You just need to feed it healthy things, and you're lowering that sensitivity threshold back down from this inflammation environment that we're basically all are suffering from, but we just haven't been aware. Especially when we've been growing up in this environment, you think it's normalized. You think it's normal to have twitches in your heart muscle, a back spasm in your back every time you try to go into REM sleep, as if you're falling off a curb or something when you're trying to go into sleep. These things aren't normal. These twitches aren't normal. And what I found is that when we started going this path of having a better life change as far as our diet, and taking care of ourselves, removing the sugar, the alcohol, these things, and going on a heavy metal detox regime. For me, I think I was also pre-diabetic with the way my body was behaving. Type 2 diabetes and things. These things basically have gone away. And with the stuff that we made, the products that we made, I can actually sleep, and I sleep really deeply. But it was a lifestyle change.
Yeah.
So
and prayer.
Prayer. It all started with prayer. With prayer.
Yeah. Amen. Well, it's kind of funny because it is, we are products of our current environment and our society. And I think it might be important, and I think this is what you were just doing, important to note that your, sleeping pods and charging plates and pendants are all part of a well-balanced lifestyle. It's not one of these things that'll, I guess I'm assuming, I'm setting my own expectations here. I'm assuming that a pendant won't suddenly take away all of my aches and pains, but it is a good step towards really what is a sort of rebellion against the spiritual principalities and powers of this world. The beast system itself craves for us to be completely inundated with whatever EMF is popular at the time, to turn our bodies not into EMF reflecting objects, but EMF absorbing objects, and then even transmitters after that. Now that we know this is all the case, that there's lots of changes that everybody could make and should make, and we all know it deep in our hearts. And if we are able to, for a second, take a breath in our day of trying to survive in this beast system that's created specifically to kill us, and we wonder why people under 50 are exploding with cancer.
Ah, yes, I was going to bring that up.
Yeah, not just, who knows? There's lots of reasons this might be, but we've been saying for our entire lives that every single thing we touch, breathe, see, and hear around us is cancer causing. No wonder the millennial generation is coming in contact with higher rates of cancer than even people over 65 at this point. And so, this is okay. I'm going to make a comparison. Listeners might be roll their eyes that I'm saying this again, but for my experience in life has totally changed over the past 3 years. And it simply just came from trying to make a habit of working out 3 times a week. I said, okay, it's the midst of the pandemic. Look, I want to get buff. I want to get huge. I want to get lean. Let's go, baby. But my entire decades of life have been met with absolute resistance for, any fitness goal whatsoever. So instead, I moved the goal to just be the habit building. If I work out 3 times a week, boom, I win. That's a win. 3 times a week, I'm winning every week. This is great. Win, win, win. Not, hey, I want to lose 60 pounds, which I didn't even know I had 60 pounds to lose. And it was the habit forming, the lifestyle change that completely changed everything. And so I think, if we direct our physical lives, but also our spiritual lives to redefine success as the lifestyle, the habit, it's what the success is what we do, not what we get for what we do. Then I think we're going to see I think it is spiritually rebellious against the powers and principalities. And I do believe that it is biblical to think about it this way. And if we're really going to take it seriously, heck, let's give it a try. Let's throw on a pendant, baby. Let's grab the voltometer, grab your EMF meter, and consider it a win if we can find a product that really makes measurable differences in our lives. And so I'm excited. Thank you so much. I did not know that we had a secret box coming. Now I have something that I can hound Gons about to get the mail. And, whether or not it is this particular idea or set of ideas that changes our life alone or not, it's definitely part of a journey we should all be on to find ways to rebel against the beast system that knows exactly what we want and how to give it to us, and then how to make us reap our own consequences for whatever we got going on in life. So I appreciate that, and I think that people out there should find a way, change your mind. It's part of repentance. Repentance is changing your mind about things and heading the opposite direction. Yep. And so we need to change our mind about the system that we're in and find ways to turn 180 degrees away and go in the other direction. Repent against the beast system. And there is a fun rant that somebody can put on the playlist of rants, but I think it's important.
I read it.
Yes, and everybody said, "Amen."
Amen.
There we go.
Well, appreciate all the research you did and the preparation for this, because it really did. It feels like a good, at least for me, it felt like a very good roundup of like 10 years of research or something.
Totally.
It's just a good walkthrough of everything. So we appreciate it very much. And I think this will stand the test of time.
I'm keeping your slides.
Yes.
Oh, please use them. Use them anywhere you want. just help get the information out to anybody that's willing to listen.
Very
Amen.
cool.
So before we go here, you have total opportunity to get into whatever topic you want. If something was left unsaid, if a topic was not brought up, now is the time to do it. And I would love to make sure that you feel this conversation was complete. But then after that, make sure to let people know how to interact with your work, how to contact you, how to see your stuff, what to do next.
Well, I have to talk about Age of Deceit, and I have to tell you now that I'm finally speaking to you about, for me, I became a Christian when I was a teenager, and then I had some bad experiences in the church, and I left church and I left God, and I was backslidden for close to 20 years, and I was dabbling in witchcraft and new agey stuff, so I know all about all of that stuff. And in 2016, I saw your movie along with other people's movies who were basically uncovering the New Age movement and how bad it was. And God used the information in your movie and the other ones that I saw at that time to bring me back to Jesus and score one for the kingdom, because now I've on this new trajectory, completely dedicating my life to God. And it's because of people like you who make movies the way that you do that are helping to bring a lot of other souls into the kingdom. So I just wanted to make sure everybody knew. And I've spoken to many people that have told me a similar story about watching Age of Deceit and how it was the thing that God used to bring them back to him. So thank you so much for that.
Gee, Louise.
Amen. Oh, he's blushing.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
he's blushing now.
I appreciate that. Praise God. All the credit goes to the Father. It's funny because over the years I've been blessed to hear how the film has affected people, just like you did there, and it's bigger than me, so it's hard for me to even absorb any of that stuff. I just give it all to God. But it's interesting how when you make a film, you're in it, you tie the dots together and all this, and then this is just a natural phenomenon as a filmmaker and as doing this stuff. You forget about some of the details, right? You're not like thinking about those details every single day, every moment.
Yeah.
And people are kind of disappointed with that sometimes when you meet them in person and they're like, "Oh, remember that thing you said?" And I was like, I think so. I don't know. Remind me, because it's been a while, but then I see how it connected dots for them. And then that's how I know it's like that. Okay, it's not me. It's I'm just being used here as a vessel. So I appreciate that. Praise goes to God. And I hope we get to stay in this role of doing stuff like this. And I think people like yourselves to heed to the call and do it, because it is not the easy road. I mean, it's a tough road. It's deliberately taking sort of the non-mainstream approach to things, and I think the principles behind what you guys do is along those same lines. So thank you for the conversation. Thank you for the preparation, and appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yes, he's very modest, which means I get to brag about how cool he is. Gons is the man. That's right. Take that, devil. My man Gons is coming for you.
I have mixed feelings about the googly-eyed VR headset man screaming that I'm the man. It's always got that. You play that, sarcasm thing. You can't tell if it's sarcastic or if it's.
You can't. It's a disease.
It is a disease and a blessing, apparently.
But I am nothing if not a good hype man. So I'll have fun with that. Yeah. All right. Websites, social media, anything like that.
Yeah.
And
so
I'm sorry if there was something else there, Tivon.
Yeah. Did you want to say anything?
Well, I think what's important is that, so like you said earlier, Basil, is that this is a part of a solution, of a broader solution. For us, it was a life change. And a combination of these things has dramatically improved our life. But think of it, if these things, if the enemy's been assaulting us in these ways over time, since 1995, that's a couple of decades. So give yourself grace, give yourself time to try to clean up your life, eating right on a heavy metal detox regime. Try the sleeping pod to help with your rest. A lot of our customers, they felt instant change. Some people is a little bit more gradual. getting to learn more about your body and how these things in the environment are affecting you. For example, for me, I did other things like I sleep on a foam mattress, on a latex mattress. I removed the heavy metal or the metal coiled bed springs. Everything taken as a whole changed my life. And just give yourself grace. If it took 25 years to put these things in your environment, in your body, give yourself 6 years, 7 years, 10 years, and be gentle with yourself.
Yeah.
But just know you're on the correct path, and you're gonna look back maybe 7, 8 years later, and you're gonna tell yourself, and I feel much, much better.
Yeah, making the choice as often as you can is victory enough. Setting your success, your win condition as just doing the thing that you gotta do. Okay, now social media websites, stuff like that.
Social media websites. You can find our products on ftwproject.com for our EMF protection products. That's my Twitter. Go ahead and follow me on Twitter. I've been pretty active on there recently. Hope Girl blog on Twitter. You can see the hopegirlblog.com website. That's my blog I've been running since 2012. And the cleanenergyacademy.com is our online engineering academy. And if you want to check out our book, Forbidden Tech, that is forbiddentech.website.
Yes.
I think I got them all.
Forbiddentech.website. So is cleanenergyacademy.org, is that where I can go to serve myself and no one else to test out some very secret energy machines that can supplement my...
No, that's not quite what we do.
Not quite it.
There you go.
There you go.
Clean Energy Academy. That's our online engineering academy. So
we're still currently researching the generator. We don't have any finished offering devices.
Yeah, the quantum energy generator.
It actually looks like a good apocalypse library piece there. I see you've got a book, Solar Secrets. I have this habit of just collecting books that I'm not going to read now, but once society collapses and I need to rebuild civilization, I'll have what I need to make it happen. So,
the whole point of the site is it's a private membership to keep the trolls out.
But you'd be surprised on how what's it like, $25 a month or
$25 a month
that,
to be a member,
and it completely eliminated all trolling. And we had the worst trolling ever.
Oh, perfect.
Just by putting up a little paywall, we got rid of all the riffraff, and now we can actually have a bunch of engineers that are just wanting to try to build stuff together and co-develop things.
Yeah,
cool. No, go ahead. Tell me more.
Well, it's just that there's a lot of research we've learned since a couple of years ago. Well, almost 8-9 years ago now.
Yeah.
With the initial project, dealing with a lot of specifics around building the generator, and it's been very expensive researching this.
Yeah,
but
there's that.
But at the same time, it's a private space for people to get together and start doing their own experiments. I just recently I'm working on building a Toyota winding machine. So I have all the CAD parts and stuff, so you can wind your own stator. That's a giant stator.
Wow.
If you wanted to. Also, I'm working on have the CAD parts for a welding table. So if you want to build your own welding table with the CAD parts,
I think you're doing. I'm sorry to. I think you were doing what I imagined I was doing when I was scratch taping
playing with magnets
into a circle. But please continue. I'm in awe.
Those are the most recent ones because the CAD design and getting the parts took a while. But now that I have them here and I'm actively assembling all those things right now to update the website with my current progress. But that's where you'd go is to get that information. Also, I'm going to make some changes to the website to include what other people are working on right now. The main one, just so you know, in this space is the Adams motor. There's some recent developments where people are using relays to do the switching for these Adams motors, and the efficiencies are much better now. And people are using it to charge batteries and at very high efficiency. I mean, It's really good. So
Adam's motor. It
Adam's
sounds
motor
like
and charging solar batteries. Yes.
And our lifestyle too. We've managed to basically build a homestead here. So we've got like 100 permaculture garden beds. We grow a lot of our own food. All of it's organic. We've got our factory here on the premises as well. People from the community, we help to feed the community. We've got different like energy projects going on. We've just built a pool, and we lined our pool with the shungite orgonite tiles that we also sell, so that we've got that EMF protection energy around the pool here. So we've got like all kinds of things going on our homestead. So we're super busy, which is why when we do shows, we have to plan them pretty far out so that we have the time to do the research. But we got 5 cats, 2 dogs, and 6 chickens.
Hey,
There you go.
we are living very similar lives. I can
It sounds like it.
identify with almost everything you just said, including the search for free energy. So
Yeah.
this is great. What a wonderful couple you guys are. Thank you so much for your work. Thank you so much for your diligence and your incredible presentation here. And if it's okay, I think we will include the slides. Are we including the slides with the show notes, Gons?
I don't know. That's up to them if they're okay
You
with
can
having
if
them
you want
freely
to.
out
Sure.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll
let's
do
do
that.
it.
I think
We
that's
always do. We always
I-
put our slides out there because people like to share them to help educate their friends and family. So please use them. Use them.
yes. That's what we will do. We'll make the slides available in the show notes. Look for a link down below there, everybody.
Excellent.
Great.
Hope and Tivon, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate it.
Thanks. Same here. God bless you, everybody.
Thank you very much, guys. Really appreciate it.
Thanks,
God
guys.
bless. God bless. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening to this episode of Canary Cry Radio. Make sure to tune in next time. But until then, think outside the cage.